It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. It's the KQ Morning Show for Tuesday, March the 19th. Good morning. Happy spring. The Who with Pinball Wizard. Who, baby. Pinball Wizard, the last song written for Tommy, the rock opera. Pete Townsend brought in a rock critic, a guy named Nick Cohn, who at the time in the UK was a really big deal. He brought this guy in, gave him a rough mix listen to this new thing he had called a rock opera, this crazy new concept. And Nick Cohn was like, yeah, okay, sure. Okay, Pete. Yeah. Whatever. And Townsend was like, oh, crap, he doesn't like it. And right on the spot, he thought, Townsend, watching Nick Cohn not get excited, he thought, well, Nick Cohn is a pinball fanatic. Maybe I should, I don't know, maybe I'll have the lead character be a pinball savant. And literally, ran home that night and just banged out the song in about 10 minutes. Pete Townsend always said it was one of the worst songs he ever wrote. There's really no point to it other than he wanted it to impress Nick Cohn. Played it for him, and the guy was like, nah, this is a great idea. And literally started giving, favorable. The guy started writing the Who are onto something special. Wait till you hear this. And then when it was actually finished, gave it a very favorable review, and it helped build a momentum that people would then accept the idea of this bizarre concept called a rock opera. So, Pete Townsend, not the first guy you think of when you go pragmatic rock star, always looking, always
or kiss ass, right?
Exactly.
You got her done, yeah.
No, man, he saw what needed to be done, and he did it because, which to me is as much as anything, that's a sign of a pretty sharp fella. What are you going to do? I mean, a lot of people would sit there and go, well, screw you, man. You just don't get my genius. And Pete Townsend's like, no, I need this guy.
To be honest with you, that Tommy album, I think, is a fantastic album. Not my favorite Who album, but it's got some classics on there. But without Pinball Wizard, I don't know that it endures like it has. I mean, Pinball Wizard is... we're still playing it here. Pinball arcades are not long gone, by the way. Lots of places to get around the cities. Pinball bars are all the rage right now. I was just at one a couple of weeks ago. Aren't they fun? And they're making new pinball games now. Jaws, they just came out with a new Jaws pinball game. I know they had the one back in the 70s, but the new one is crazy. Yeah,
I saw there's a Foo Fighters pinball game that came out a couple years ago. That's a pretty big deal. There's
Sopranos. That's the one I always run into. There's a Sopranos.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm really good at it.
Does it? What if it was scented? What if it smelled like gabagool? What if you could just, hit a button and then...
Yeah, if you tilt the machine, someone will come up behind you and shoot you in the back of the head.
See? That would work for me. I was never a pinball guy. Pinball to me... In the town I grew up in, pinball was for the guys who had cigarettes rolled up in their shirt sleeve.
Yeah.
It was an older guy. Yeah, it was an older guy vibe. But when I first started going to the video arcades, I said yesterday, if I were doing a rock opera and I were writing the song Pinball Wizard, it would have been Dig Dug Wizard. You know what I mean? Which is not nearly as cool. You just can't really get the same vibe from Dig Dug Wizardry in terms of a rock, and for the spine of an entire rock opera anyway. But yeah, the pinball guys in my town, they had the cigarettes rolled up in the sleeve. Sometimes they were the guys that drove around listening to Skynyrd and AC/DC. And at those ages, that kind of scared me. That music, I thought I associated those two bands in the late 70s with, the people that listen to that music, they want to smack me around.
They probably did.
They don't like the cut of my jib, whatever that meant. You know what I mean? You're like this little goofy new wave soccer dork. They want to kick your ass, and they would have had I not been so verbally adroit at getting myself out of cornered situations. But that was the pinball players. I would watch them and I would try, and it just never ever clicked for me. I wanted to be a pinball guy, but I just never, I don't know, there was such a physicality to it that I was just I felt embarrassed trying to really get after it really hard, Pinball to me, I'd see guys sweating doing pinball. I'm like, what? No.
How they do that hip smack.
Yeah.
Smack. Yeah, you can't do that anymore.
That's hot.
I would tilt the thing every time. I had no control. If I tried to hip smack it, it would be too much.
Yeah, those guys, they sort of ruled their roost. For me, it came late in life. You talk about cigarettes. It's hard for me to fire a pinball up into the machine without wanting to take a drag off a heater. For me, it did come late in life. We didn't have arcades and pinball machines out in Woolsey, South Dakota. I kind of came into that video age. We're of that age. But when I got to Minneapolis and started hanging out at First Avenue, that sort of side room to the right as you walk in was all pinball machines, like maybe 20 pinball machines all lined up there, and you just hang out in there and play pinball all night. And there was some music out there somewhere behind you.
Sure there was. We had Peter Jesperson on the show last year, the guy that was, he managed and signed the Replacements, started Twin Tone Records, local musical, kind of a legendary figure. I finally read his book over the weekend, and just there was so much of that time, 80s and then a little into the 90s, but the First Ave and all these old references to the Minneapolis music scene of the 70s and 80s that I was not around for, but have always heard about in legend. But man, it was fascinating, and it got me really, it's like I wasn't even part of it, but the nostalgia that it induced and the looking back, because that was a music scene I was aware of just randomly through the occasional article in, any number of music fanzines or even sometimes in Rolling Stone. But in my mind, early 80s Minneapolis, I was like, man, something's going on up there. Well, I got to get up there. It only took me 40 years. But, it's like, man, there's something happening in that town. And it was really pretty great. And all those years, like the me not playing pinball years, the me listening to the first Replacements record years, all that stuff coming back around. And I started thinking about, it really wasn't bad back then when I needed to do something, I just went to my mom and said, can I have money?
Oh. Yeah, right.
Can I have money?
It was Mom, too. Dad had the billfold.
Yeah.
There was a stack in there, but you asked Mom, and she would go to Dad's billfold. And, back in the day, open up the desk drawer and sneak in there and slip you out a few bucks. Because if you asked Dad, he'd, sort of, all right, and then reach in and grab $1. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like having like the governor on the figurative go-kart of my existence back then. Can I have money? And the answer is yes or no, and I accepted both pretty much equally. Okay, didn't have to think about it, no gray area, not am I budgeting, but are they budgeting? It was just like yes or no, $5 or not. Okay, that's kind of a nice time. I can go right down the rabbit hole of, it's pretty good being a kid. What are you going to do?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I just think about not getting out of bed with everything hurting, without the cracking and the popping and I think I came up the stairs the other day and I was like a dog. I was on all fours. I'm like, just my back. This feels better if I just sort of crawl up the stairs these days. Listen to me whine.
This might be the switching skiing for yoga phase of your life.
It's so weird. We were just talking about that. She's like, what are you thinking? I'm like, I don't know. I think by the time I'm 60, I'm going to have to hang it because I'm not going to go out there and just putter around with the folks on the blue runs and pizza, French fry. And isn't this fun? It's fresh air. Let's go in.
Okay, I'm taking that personally, by the way, as a blue run maven or whatever you want to call me.
Yeah, and what's wrong with pizza?
Yeah, what do you expect me to swoosh back and forth like Jean-Claude Killy?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to French fry my ass all the way down that mountainside.
Well, French fry is the way to go. Leave the pizza for the cafeteria for the break with the beer, and break open and go for it. But yeah, there are just some things we got to transition. I like those kid days when it was just simple and easy. Let's talk about this. Things we miss about being a kid. It's okay to be a little nostalgic to kick the day off. Spring's coming. I'll feel like kids, I think the equinox is like 10 o'clock officially tonight. Yeah, something like that. All right. Talking about that, hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. Renus Gerritsen, Barry Hay, Cesar Ziedewijk, and George Koymans. Those are the members of the golden era of Golden Earring. A band that broke up in, wait for it, 2021, 60 years after they formed. That band existed from 1961 until 2021. And the song we just heard was about 60 years long. Boy, the unedited Twilight Zone right there. That bass player was getting some work done. Cramped his hand, I'm sure, a couple times in the studio. But, he got through it.
I forgot that song came out actually in the 80s. I always think of that as like one of my uncle's songs because I didn't hear it till I got into classic rock radio a little bit later on in my life, late 20s. But I remember one of the guys you talked about, whoever the lead guitarist was for Golden Earring, talked about, you always think that Twilight Zone, I associate it with the old TV show, but he was reading at the time The Bourne Identity. The book, Robert Ludlum's book, had just come
really?
out. And that's what he based it on, he said, in the interview that I read that's years old now.
Okay. Was there a bullet hitting the bone reference in the Bourne Identity? I don't remember that. I don't
remember either, but I just remember him saying that in an interview.
Those books were in the house. I never read them. The whole Bourne thing. My dad was a sucker for all that. The Tom Clancy novels, he loved all that crap. Yeah. Pick one up every now and again and flip through it. Like Eye of the Needle. Remember that one?
Oh, Ken Follett.
Yeah, man. Ken Follett. All those. Eye of the Needle with Donald Sutherland. Heated the Needle. Common. That movie was, whoo, boy. And and of course, in the early days of HBO when they had like 4 movies, Eye of the Needle did have some nudity in there. So that was a staple.
Good nude.
Yeah, I had to sit there. You'd be watching that with the parents and make sure not to stir in my chair when the nudity hit the TV. I'm 13 and I'm acting like no big deal. Why would this be weird?
Yeah. Oh, man. I remember being at that age 12, 13 when Saturday Night Live and they were doing one of the Bees episodes. They were at summer camp.
Yeah.
And it was a masturbation episode. They were talking about Johnny's buzzing off.
Yeah.
Oh, you were too, man. Look, there's honey in your bed.
Heck yeah.
And Chris and I are just sitting there very stoically because Mom and Dad decided to let us watch this because John Belushi's our hero all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I hear Mom say to Dad, oh, they do too know what they're talking about. And Dad was like, no, they don't. He's like, hey, kids, what are they talking about? And I very quickly, one of my quick lines as a young man was, yeah, pee in the bed, right? Dad's see, they don't know. Yeah.
Saved it. Saved what would be the most awkward conversation in human history otherwise. Yeah, do you remember there was also the Guido Sarducci skit where he was called The Man Who Loved Swimming. And he's sitting by the pool in his priestly robes, but every time a hot woman walked by, he goes, I think I'm going to jump in the pool. And he had to jump into the cold water every time. And I was like, oh, my God. I wonder if my parents know that they're thinking that I might know what's happening here. By the way, all that led to a day in 9th grade, which I will never forget. The worst day of my life. No, I'm sorry, 8th grade, when maybe it was 8th or 9th grade. It was 1979. I don't remember if it was spring or fall, but I do remember the words coming out of my dad's mouth. Your mother and I are going to see a movie. Do you want to go with us? And I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, okay, we'll go to the movies. And they took me to see 10. With
weird.
Bo Derek and Dudley Moore, which has full-on scenes of orgies.
Yeah.
And I'm in the theater with my parents. I've seen like side boob on a big screen at that age.
Yeah.
And then I'm watching all manner of copulation being simulated on camera, as far as I know. Yeah. And I mean, there's full on orgy scenes, and I'm like, what is this a test? Am I on candid camera? Is this a joke? Oh, my God. The greatest and worst 2 hours of my life simultaneously.
That was a Blake Edwards movie, wasn't it?
Oh, it sure as hell was.
Yeah. And I remember, like, in my 30s being home, and we're all just kind of wandering into the living room to watch a movie. And it was a Blake Edwards movie. I forget which one. One of the Dudley Moore ones. And Mom going, no, we're not watching a Blake Edwards movie with the kids. I was in my 30s when Mom said that. And I'm just surprised a Bo Derek Blake Edwards movie, your parents went, well, let's take the youngster.
Oh, I'm still scarred by it, man. I hear Ravel's Bolero, and I gotta take a dip in the pool. I think it's time I get wet with some cold water. Oh, those are good days.
Good Lord, it's flying by this morning. We got a lot to get to. We're going to be talking with a couple of the folks from the St. Croix Valley Riders, Donnie Smith Bike Show Week.
Nice.
The official kickoff, or unofficial, I think, kickoff, I don't know which it is, to the motorcycle riding season. Of course, we're going to be greeted with, a big kick to the crotch from one last spring blast here coming up later this weekend. What better time this weekend than to get over to the River Center and see the Donnie Smith Bike Show and all that pretty chrome inside where it's nice and warm. But we'll be doing that at 7:30. Game show at 8 o'clock. Are we doing Trust Us this morning? Is that the one we're playing?
We're doing People Are Strange.
Oh, that's right. We're going to talk about our idiosyncrasies here and made up or not. And that's coming at 8 o'clock for some tickets. And Mike Evans' Hollywood Report is all ready to go. Let's get to it. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It's time for the Mike Evans Hollywood Report.
Hey, good morning, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Candice, and Zepp, Steve, Tony, everybody. It's Tuesday, and it's special Tuesday, Marcus Theater special every Tuesday. $6 to see any movie you want to see all day at Marcus Theaters. And I told you, there's a lot of great movies. Take the day off and go see a movie at Marcus today. You'll thank me in the morning. Love Nuggets. So, I mean, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, then usually it's a duck, right? However, 73-year-old Martin Short and 74-year-old Meryl Streep, who's estranged from her husband, traveling together, spotted together in Los Angeles, attend Broadway shows in New York together, and they insist they are not dating. Hello. Hello. Sounds like a couple of dating ducks to me. TV news. If you get the Peacock streamer, please check out one season. There's only one season of Apples Never Fall. It is a mystery that I guarantee you're not going to figure it out till the last episode. Sam Neill, love him. Annette Bening, still hot, even at her age. Apples Never Fall, Peacock, 4 stars. More TV. So this Thursday, Meghan Markle scheduled for production for her cooking show on Netflix? What? Since when is Meghan Markle a chef? I mean, be honest. Would you sit down, turn on the television at home, and watch Meghan Markle cook? I know I wouldn't. Still more TV and far out, dude. To kick off April 20, which is 420 on the calendar as well, as you know. 420, the actual time of day when a lot of folks love to fire one up. Hulu has greenlighted Jimmy Kimmel to executive produce a 6-part series called High Hopes about two brothers who own one of the most popular and biggest dispensaries in Hollywood and have for a long time. You know, after I left K-Rock, where I was doing mornings, Jimmy Kimmel was hired as Jimmy the Sports Guy. And he sounded like he was on the pipe back then. Not surprised, Jimmy Kimmel says he has never been so excited about a project than High Hopes. And a royal family follow-up, Harry and William do not talk at all. I found out that over a year ago, William's assistant had his assistant send an email to Harry's assistant saying, in the future, have your people contact my people. Do not contact me. Well, there's some brotherly love for you right there. I'm working on a very hot love nugget. We'll see whether or not it happens. For tomorrow, also, a little March Madness predictions. Have a great day, and be sure to hit Marcus Theater up on that $6 special every Tuesday. Mike Evans, see ya.
Mike Evans, Hollywood Report, working on a hot love nugget tomorrow. Is it just me? If I hear someone say hot love nugget, I think they just went mining for gold in their nose and pulled out something special.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm going to quit calling Maria my hot love nugget. It just doesn't work anymore for me.
It's Tuesday.
It made perfect sense early on, but at some point you've got to up your game.
You'd have to know Maria to know that would never make sense.
She's just going to start. If you keep going with that, she's just going to tune you out eventually.
I think she'd kick me in the nuggets.
Yeah, that'll probably happen. Let's look back.
Teach us a thing or two.
I mentioned yesterday that on the March 18th, 1995, Michael Jordan announced to the world, "I'm back." And on March 19th, 1995, he did in fact return to the basketball court. He came out wearing a number 45 for the Bulls because he said, well, number 23 has already been raised to the rafters. He felt the need to wear something else. I think Jordan had the self-awareness to recognize, my first game back, I don't want to wear 23 because he was not good. 7 for 28 from the floor. The team lost to Indiana in overtime. But to this day, it's the highest rated, most watched regular season game in league history by far. 35 million people tuned into a meaningless March basketball game because the king had returned.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zepp, Tony, Candice, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Tuesday, March 19th. The year is 2024, but don't let that confuse you because Mike Tyson is entering the ring this summer. We mentioned this briefly. Mike Tyson is going to be in a boxing ring fighting and it's going to be the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, an event for Netflix, and he's going to fight a YouTube douchebag named something Paul. What's this guy's name? YouTube guy, TikTok star, celebrity. I don't know, just some guy who decided, like Jake Paul, decided I'm going to go be a boxer now, and he's apparently a pretty good boxer. And Mike Tyson's in his late 50s. Yeah. He's still Mike Tyson. I don't want Mike Tyson to punch me when he's 90.
I saw him training, for this big fight coming up. I was clicking around on the internet. Oh, there's Mike Tyson training today. It's happening. Let's see what kind of shape he's in. This Jake douchebag is going to get his ass kicked.
Did you see who Mike Tyson was training with over the weekend?
No, that might have been the video I watched, but I guess I didn't pay that close attention.
Well, this might come as a surprise, but Maynard Keenan, the singer, the frontman for the band Tool,
what?
is training Mike Tyson. Maynard Keenan is a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Oh, I know.
All right. Well, he wasn't in the ring with him. I thought that's
no, but he's got to work. He's got he's got a martial arts academy in Cottonwood, Arizona. And first of all, I didn't know the lead singer of Tool was a jiu-jitsu black belt. I have to rethink some things now.
Before I heckle him?
But my God, the front man who kicks whose ass pool just got a whole shakeup.
So he can break some of those moves out? He can pull out some jiu-jitsu?
I don't
know. Are they boxing or are they in the octagon?
I think they're just. It's just more about the workout. I don't think they're sparring. Okay. It was just, hey, come get a workout at my facility. And Tyson looks ripped, man. He's lean. Right. He looks mean, and I just can't get over the fact that there's again. I'm going right back to first of all, his name's Maynard. I've never. Maynard to me, that's Appalachia. I mean, that sounds like that's a character on Andy Griffith to me. I've always been blown away by the fact that the dude's name is Maynard. And I'm not knocking the name. It's just such a rare thing to hear.
Yeah, we gave that as a nickname back in the day to a buddy of ours who still to this day says, "Don't call me Maynard." I'm like, God, it's been 50 years. Let it go, Maynard.
And then now to hear that Maynard is a black belt in one of the most just mind-boggling martial arts there is. I mean, if you see him lay on his back, run out of the room. Don't get near a guy. Get near a jiu-jitsu guy on the floor.
He's really bendy on stage.
Yeah, I bet he is.
Yoga squats and
contortionist, jiu-jitsu.
Bendy.
Does he do anything else? Is he a musician or anything?
I don't know.
You don't like Tool?
Tool,
yeah, I love
Perfect
Tool,
Circle,
Candice.
And all that.
Raise your hand if you've seen them more than 5 times.
No.
You haven't? Okay.
2.
That's cool. That's cute.
That dude is. I'm just saying. Look, I've met an awful lot of frontmen in bands, and that arrogance carries it. What gets them up in front of a crowd and makes them great. A lot of them don't know how to turn that off when they're not on stage, and you just look at them and go, "What are you kidding? Yeah. You can't stop yelling. Stop acting like you're a tough guy." This dude actually is. I'm like, man, the idea that a frontman can literally kick the rest of the band's ass, that's so upsetting to me. That's just throwing the entire thing off. That's completely out of whack. I mean, Charlie Watts very famously threw a punch at Mick Jagger once. Jagger called him, "You're my drummer," and he punched him and said, "Never forget, you're my singer." That's the natural order of things.
Yeah.
You get all the hype, you get the attention, but behind closed doors, stop it. But God, not in the band Tool. Holy smokes, I'm very impressed with that. So it's 2024, and Mike Tyson's getting ready for a fight. In 1984, you would have said, "Who's Mike Tyson?" And in 1994, you would have been like, "Still, he was in prison then, I think." So it would have seemed impossible that 30 years after 1994, we'd be talking about a Tyson fight. But I, for one, will be tuning in. I will watch. I want to see what Iron Mike looks like at this age.
It looks like they might wear headgear for this, and if they do, then I won't watch. I'm not going to watch.
I thought it was no headgear.
Well, all right. Well, okay. Well, I was watching the video, and they said it hadn't been decided yet if they were going to wear headgear, if they weren't going to wear headgear. But yeah, Tony, I hope they don't. Then I'll watch it because I want to see this dude get his ass pummeled. I forget his name too, Jake something, right?
Paul.
But yeah, that's it.
The double first name dudes. I never have time for him.
Tyson beat him into submission. But yeah, if they've got the headgear on and it's just going to be a kiddie fight, then no.
If the headgear's on, that means more chances for Mike Tyson to eviscerate the man's kidneys and liver with some body blows.
I like to see facial swelling. That was always my favorite part of fighting, the facial swelling. You just don't get that with the headgear.
Every now and again, the shot to the liver, though, the right side trunk a little lower than center. When you see a guy take that punch and then he takes 2 more steps and then collapses, those are always like oh my God, that must hurt.
All right, you know what? I'm going to amend my statement. If he wears headgear and Mike Tyson gets in and just pummels him but never once hits him in the head just to prove a point, just beats the rest of his body into submission, then maybe I'll watch. That's on Netflix, so I'll watch.
That reminded me. Do you remember the U.S. Open? Or there was a U.S. Open where
golf.
Golf. Phil Mickelson was standing at 18, and he was like a guy in a bad movie, and he refused to not hit his driver. This is like 2007-ish maybe, and he gets up on the 18th tee, and his driver's been spraying all day, but he's in the lead, and it's the 18th hole on the last day, and he's like, I'm still hitting driver, and everybody else has been hitting a 2-iron, and he flails his driver out of bounds, and he loses the tournament because of it. The next major that year, Tiger Woods played the entire Sunday round and never pulled his driver out of his bag. And I swear and they weren't even mentioning it. And the whole time I'm like, this is ultimate peak Tiger trolling Phil. Yeah. And no one wants to talk about it on the broadcast. And I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. Tiger Woods is a lot of things. I never thought he was cool. He's like a little golf dork robot guy, actually. Right. I just play golf like crazy. But he was an incredible, at the top, like Tyson. At his best, no one's ever done it better. Mike Tyson had that brief little window of time when you would say, I don't know that Ali could have taken him. I don't know Prime George Foreman could beat this guy. I mean, he's in the conversation. Tiger was there a lot longer. But that was the greatest thing I ever thought Tiger did. I was convinced.
That's phenomenal.
He didn't pull out the driver just to troll Phil from the last major we just had.
Right, in a major. I don't know if he did this, if Tiger did that in a major, or if it was just another...
it was the next major. It was like when the PGA used to be the last one.
See, for me, I thought he was cool when he nailed the Pannekuchen waitress. I'm like, here's a billionaire sports hero banging a Pannekuchen waitress. He's one of us, but that's better.
The best, when the Tiger stuff all exploded, there was the big Vanity Fair article, and the funniest thing to me about that whole situation, I mean, funny in the, it's nobody I know, so I can laugh at it. It is. But there was a girl that worked. There was somebody that he had spent. Maybe it was that waitress, but it was one of the many women who came forward to tell their story. And she said that Tiger took her to lunch at a Blimpie one time.
Blimpie.
That was the story. A Blimpie, not even a Subway. It was like Blimpie. It's like saying we went to, that's like an old we went to Burger Chef back in the day. Couldn't even get to the King. They went to Blimpie, and then she told her story about. And then at the end of the interview, the guy said, "Did Tiger ever give you anything? Did he buy you any gifts? Was there any? Did he throw things at you to impress you?" And she literally went, "Just the Blimpie." That's all he ever paid for. But that line, just the Blimpie. I was like, man, that's pretty special.
Freaking bumper sticker.
It really is. It should have just been a T-shirt with his face, just the Blimpie. It's not too late. Somebody out there would get it. Somebody would be like, "Oh my God, that's pretty great." So, I'm excited to watch Mike Tyson fight. You know how you hear about people who lose a limb, they still have phantom pains.
Yeah.
It happens, and whatever reason, you lose an arm, and then suddenly you wake up in the middle of the night and your arm hurts or whatever. You damn know well, like they announced this fight, and Evander Holyfield, wherever he is in the world, like his ear just starts to ache. It's like, what the hell? What's going on? I feel something in my ear. Wow. Man, that's completely nuts. So yeah, it is not 1994. It is 2024.
Wow.
And Mike Tyson is preparing for a fight. How about this? It's not 1974, but the Environmental Protection Agency yesterday announced finally is banning the most common form of asbestos. That's not a headline from 1974. That's yesterday.
I thought that was long gone.
Right.
The most common form of asbestos is now officially banned in the United States. It took this long. My father-in-law was part of a class action lawsuit. Not that he had anything to do with it. Just one day, checks started showing up in the mail because he was an electrician, and he worked in a bunch of asbestos buildings in the 70s. And some suit was settled in the early 90s, and he was just getting paid out for it. And they just now officially banned it yesterday. That's wild.
Yeah, that blows my mind because it was such a big thing for you. You've got a family connection. Mine was poor farmers. Dad had an opportunity to come over to Minnesota, and he would come over for like 3 weeks when we were kids. Dad's just going to Minnesota with a bunch of other guys, and they're not hunting. But it was to remove asbestos from buildings, and that was like late 70s, early 80s. I was a pretty young kid. But he would make, big bucks. They go work 12 on, 8 off or something like that, and he'd come home with enough to keep the farm going. But I thought that's when asbestos was long gone.
I know. It's just crazy to see that headline. Like, wait, I'm sorry. What year is it? But then again, because like I said, I would have thought that's 1974, which is, wait for it, 50 years ago. That's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
And what that means is we have now had for 50 years, well, we haven't had it, but 50 years ago, a Hungarian guy named Erno Rubik came up with a game he originally called Magic Cubes, the Rubik's Cube. Mm-hmm. I remember the first time I ever saw that. My sister, who lived in D.C., sent one home to me in Kentucky. It was my Christmas present. Like, she just sent a box, and we opened it up, and she had presents for everybody. And mine was a Rubik's Cube. This was probably 78, maybe even 79, and nobody in my hometown had seen one.
Right.
And it was like, what the hell is this? And I got, at the end of the Christmas break, I could get one side of a Rubik's Cube. I could get all the reds or all the greens. I could get one side. And I'm feeling like I'm like, I am my generation's Oppenheimer. I'm pretty sure that I'm a genius. I took that bad boy to school. The first day after Christmas break, I walked into my school like, behold, the coolest thing you've ever seen. And a couple of people had said, I've heard about that. Like, there was news stories, like this new toy was blowing up everywhere. Mm-hmm. But literally nobody in my school had ever seen one. Donnie Messick, douchebag, super genius computer brain guy, 1 year ahead of me. He's actually a great kid. He took that Rubik's Cube, and I kid you not, now having never even heard of it, less than 5 minutes he completed it.
Nailed it.
And it was like,
that brain?
That's just that's a different set of circuitry going on right there.
Yeah. I wonder what he's up to now.
I'm sorry to inform you, he's no longer with us. But he was like a biochemist at University of Vancouver, an award-winning. You know what he was? Just a smart guy his whole life.
Yeah.
And a sweet corner jumper too. When he decided to play basketball, we couldn't believe. Like, wait, you're actually good at basketball? What a crazy story.
No, you can't be both. You can't be a genius and a great athlete. No,
also turning 50 this year. Post-it notes.
Minnesota.
Yeah. So there was basically a week, as in, a WEAK, not strong. A weak glue was invented in 1968. The inventor was like, I don't know what to do with this glue. It's not really good for anything. It's a new thing. 6 years later, a conversation about how do I bookmark pages in a hymnal book at church. Someone said, a little piece of paper? I've got a weak glue that would be great for a little piece of paper. Next thing you know, boom, bing, bang, bang, boom. Post-it notes are born. Next thing you know after that, it's the entire subplot of a great, hilarious movie with the girl from Friends and the other girl. What's that? Roni and what's that? The high school reunion.
Lisa Kudrow.
Roni and Michelle's high school reunion. Remember the whole joke
Mm-hmm,
is they tell everyone they invented Post-it notes?
Yes.
They're making a sequel, I think.
I remember seeing that movie in the theater and going, Rosemary's like, let's go see it. It's supposed to be great. I'm like, I'm going to hate every minute. Oh, my God, this movie's hilarious.
So I bought
so
that
surprised.
movie on DVD, and I was too young at the time to be watching rated R movies.
Uh-huh.
So I cut out the little corner where it says rated R. I cut it out of the DVD. So I'm thinking my mom wouldn't notice.
Yeah.
But there's just like a big chunk of the cover missing.
I don't remember what made it an R.
There was like a pretty
Language.
sexy scene where she was like pretending to have I don't know,
Just
I
had
don't
some
need to get
post-it
into it.
notes on his pasties, maybe. I never saw them. What was it? I don't.
Romy? Is that it?
Romy
and
and
Michelle's
Michelle's high school reunion, yes.
It's really funny, really bizarre.
I must not have been dating at the time.
Yeah, that would explain it. Really bizarre. There's a lot of other things turning 50 this year, and we are talking about things that we were really digging when we were kids. We're just scratching the surface here so far, folks. I mean, I'm just saying. So let's dive in there. Let's stay right on this lane. How about that? Let's hang tight.
All right. Yeah, we're going to do that. And Donnie Morley and SCVR rider Tony Jurgens. We're going to be talking motorcycle, a little bit of legislation, important stuff to motorcyclists, and some motorcycle rallies coming up this summer. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It's Tuesday, March the 19th. Whoo, baby. Spring has sprung and springing all over the place. Don't let the snow later this week fool you. It is time to start thinking about riding. The Donnie Smith Bike Show is happening this weekend. Zepp, you'll be hanging out at the Donnie Smith Bike Show if memory serves.
All day on Saturday for sure. I'll be out there hanging out with the Dennis Kirk crew. You can't miss them right as you come down the escalator. There's the big Dennis Kirk presenting the Donnie Smith Bike Show again this year. Come over, spin the wheel, say hi. I'll be there from 1 to 3. And then, of course, we have the Coors Light Happy Hour. We're kicking off at 5 o'clock. Second to None will be playing. Yeah, just a good time. It's going to be kind of a crappy weather-wise weekend, so perfect to get out to the Donnie Smith Bike Show over at the River Center. DonnieSmithBikeShow.com. Get tickets. Come on out. Look at some pretty chrome. A lot going on there. There's a lot of vendors there. And I think a lot of us, most of motorcycle riders in Minnesota are hip to the St. Croix Valley Riders, known famously or maybe infamously for the chili feed and a lot of other things. But they're going to be there. They always are there and well represented. Usually pretty close to the Dennis Kirk setup. In fact, let's bring in Donnie Morley and Tony Jurgens with SCVR, the St. Croix Valley Riders. Good morning, fellas. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Zepp. How are you, Steve?
Everybody's
Doing
good,
well,
thanks.
Brian, Steve, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, it's
All
a
right.
pleasure. Zepp, take it away, man.
Well, right off the top here, guys, have you had your bikes out yet? Been out for a spin?
January, actually.
When's the last time you did that?
Never.
Yeah.
I have ridden in all 12 months, but not this year. My bike's still in storage. I'm going to wait till the sand and all the debris gets washed off the road first.
Yeah, and that's a thing, and we'll have a lot of that next week. Looks like some snow coming in, that sort of thing. Let the roads get cleaned up a little bit. All right, guys, let's talk Donnie Smith Bike Show, the St. Croix Valley Riders. You guys always well represented there. And, of course, we know about the chili feed. You're going to tell us about another exciting rally coming up this summer that's new to SCVR. But let's talk about your main mission, because I think a lot of us bikers kind of know what you do, and it's important work for us all at the state capitol, bikers' rights and legislation. Talk about what's cooking in this new legislative season regarding motorcycles.
All right. Hey, Tony, I'll start off with this real quick. St. Croix Valley Riders is a group of men and women that want to express their passion. We're giving people. We're kind of people that live and let live. And we also want to protect those rights. So we are a lobbying, charitable organization in the state of Minnesota and Wisconsin. The dull and boring part is the part I get to do. That's legislative lobbying work. And I couldn't do it without the help of people like Tony and then some of our constituents up on Capitol Hill, Senator Judy Seeberger, House of Representatives member Shane Hudella. So, Tony, do you want to tell them how that kind of works with a writers group like ours and Congress?
Yeah, actually, and that's how I got involved with St. Croix Valley Riders. I was in the Minnesota House for 3 terms, and one of my favorite days of the year was Biker Day. And the second favorite day, or another favorite day, was probably FFA Day, when the kids are up in their blue FFA coats. But you always knew it was Biker Day because you'd see a lot of black leather vests and coats and boots, and it was a lot of fun. And I got to know some of the members of St. Croix Valley Riders, and I like to ride. So my wife Dawn and I joined SCVR. We've been members for about 5 or 6 years now. And now that I'm not in the house any longer, I'm have a little more time to spend with things like this for SCVR. But what really I think got my attention was, SCVR is really out there to promote training for safety of the riders, and to be able to track legislation and get the word out to the members to say, hey, contact your senator or your state representative on this legislation that's important to the freedom of riders like us.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that you guys bring training into it. We get on these big hogs, these 800-pound or more machines every year, and we just kind of go out tooling around. And very few of us riders have probably taken the Minnesota Department of Public Safety riding courses. Maybe the SCVR, you guys offer some riding courses or work with some groups that do. But I always thought it was one of the funnest things I ever did every spring once I started getting involved. First of all, you just get to do things on your motorcycle that you wouldn't normally do out on the road, tooling around. That is, get the cones out and learn your bike a little bit better, learn the moves, and work on some things, because if something goes wrong out there on the roads, and eventually something will, you need a little bit of training. You need to be able to react. You can't learn on the spot. So big proponent of rider training courses. Any legislation this year that would spook any bikers like myself that go like, God, I hope that bill doesn't go through, or I hope this one does, that we should be supporting?
Oh my God, Zepp, that's an hour-long conversation. But yes, we're keeping our eye on autonomous and connected vehicle legislation. We're trying to protect all motorists out on the road, especially motorcycle riders. We just had something go through the state last year, the Right to Repair Act. That's huge. That allows basically anybody to repair their own bike and get parts. And believe it or not, parts and repair ability was being attacked.
Yeah.
What being attacked with what justification? Explain that to me.
Well, what was going on was there was minerals that were trying to be protected in the advancement of batteries being produced for electric vehicles.
Okay.
In order to protect those minerals, they were trying to rally back on metals being used for repair parts. Also, the initiative to push going green, going electric. So they kind of go hand in hand, and it's a complicated process. It's hard to understand. I don't get it completely myself, but with people like Tony and our other constituents, we get together and put our brains in on it as a think tank.
Yeah.
Wow. That's fascinating. We're talking with Donnie Morley and Tony Juergens here on the KQ Morning Show. One other thing you mentioned, the autonomous and connected vehicles. Give me the 2-cent version of what the concerns are and that what that actually is describing, and what your thoughts are.
Autonomous vehicles, so there's a couple of different classifications. There are fully autonomous, and then there are automated assisted systems with human drivers. The accidents, you would be kind of amazed. These things are supposed to be developed to minimize accidents.
Right.
And I do have some stats. We don't have to get into that unless we want to. But they're driven by camera, LiDAR, radar, and they see images that look like static images. And they're having a problem because when you get a motorcycle in a group of cars and maybe a semi-truck, the LiDAR and the radar don't necessarily see the motorcycle. And there have been motorcyclist deaths on our roads already because of this issue. So we're trying to make sure that the state of Minnesota puts together some legislation that doesn't allow for fully autonomous vehicles to roll on our roadways until they've figured out the technology and they can prove to groups like ours that they're safe to ride alongside of.
Great.
Yeah, that's paramount. And see, these are the things that your average biker like me, we just don't think about, but that's why SCVR actually exists. Started out as getting involved in the legislative body because, we need our own lobby here in the state of Minnesota. And Tony Juergens, having been, spent 3 terms in our state legislature, a big addition to SCVR. And how we support SCVR is by coming out and partying with you guys and having a good time. Let's get to some fun stuff. You guys have a new event coming up this summer, man. Tell me all about it.
We got the Rally in the Valley. Now, the Rally in the Valley is not a new concept, but it's a new approach to what we had resided to as the Fun Run, which was prior to that called the Round Barn Run. Now, people love the Round Bar Run. The Round Barns have disintegrated into nothing, so it would be a make-believe run if we did that anymore. Anyways, Rally in the Valley, we're going to have live music, live beer. Consider it like a mini chili feed, if you will. Ooh. It'll be a Saturday and Sunday event. Yeah. It's like $25 to get in. That includes camping, beer, music. We got Fat Tire mini bike races and rodeos, and boy, we
I'm taking Steve crazy. On. Steve, we're going head to head in the Fat Tire mini bike races, buddy.
Can't wait.
Yeah. All 6'3" of Steve, right? We'll get the smallest bike.
Exactly.
I want to see that.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. When is this happening? The Rally in the Valley, then?
The Rally in the Valley is going to be June 22nd at the Gaslight Bar and Grill off of Highway 10 in Ellsworth. Yeah. And, of course, we have a bike run associated with that event, and we have 2 honorary road captains. They would be Brian Zepp and Steve Gorman.
What?
And Jeff
Love
Humble.
It.
Jeff Humble from St. Paul Indian Motorcycles is going to bring you guys a couple brand new Indians to mess up.
You guys.
And we also have, now let's circle back to safety briefly, Randy Swenson. He's our rider safety and training coordinator at SCVR. He's willing to help out if we need to tidy up on any riding.
I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
You know what? Listen, I've been riding motorcycles. Steve's ridden motorcycles. I've been riding them since I was literally could only start a Fat Tire mini bike back in the day, the old pull cord ones. And every year I love to do rider. I just like to do rider training. Like I said, it's a different kind of riding. It sharpens the skills. It trains you. I'm a big guy on training coming out of the military and that kind of stuff. I just think it's
Absolutely.
fun. I don't know why Steve and I wouldn't want a little refresher, a brush up course before we hit the road for Rally in the Valley.
And
figuratively speaking.
I have to make sure I get those bikes back to Indian Motorcycle on 2 wheels. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. In the fall, we'll be sure to bring them back sometime in October.
Well, now I'm feeling pressured, okay, to ride responsibly and safely.
Well, we'll do our best. Sure.
Back to training a little bit, and talking about SCVR, if you're a SCVR member, I think it's 3 years in good standing. We'll reimburse you for your training. So you take the training course, you submit your receipt to us, and we'll reimburse you for it. We'll pay for it.
Yeah, fantastic.
All right.
SCVR. By the way, you guys are going to be at the Donnie Smith Bike Show. Usually, is your usual spot. You come down the escalator, Dennis Kirk there in front of you as you enter the big river center there, and all the shiny bikes. And you guys are like a quick right there, generally.
Right there. Around the corner. Same spot this year. Yep.
Easy to find. Get signed up for the SCVR. You can become a member there. You can learn more about Rally in the Valley that's coming up here. This is a new kind of spin on the old barn run that you're going to be doing on June 22nd. Of course, the chili feed. I mean, that's all booked and ready to go. You guys got some bands ready?
Well, we have a phenomenal headliner this year. And we were going to wait to release the band information, but I think we're going to have to. I think we have to let everybody know who our headliner is.
Yeah.
And you all know him as the former lead singer of Ted Nugent. We have Derek St. Holmes playing Saturday night. A phenomenal musician. And if people don't understand who he is, I think we just have to say cat scratch fever, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And don't sleep on Whitford St. Holmes, the band he had with Brad Whitford from Aerosmith. That was badass, too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's you guys are just baiting hooks over here left and right. Jeez.
Yeah, the Rally of the Valley is kind of a dry run, a practice run for the chili feed this fall.
Yeah. I mean, looking forward to it. So that's happening on June 22nd, Rally in the Valley. Of course, scvr.org. That's the website, right? I have a bookmark. So I'm pretty sure, am I remembering that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and our website is going under some changes, too. We're constantly upgrading it and improving it. So even if you were there yesterday, go back and check it out again today or tomorrow.
Yeah, beautiful.
Right on.
I love it.
Thank you, fellas.
Yeah, we really appreciate your time this morning. Come catch up with you guys out at the Donnie Smith Bike Show, first and foremost. Get a lot more information there. Check them out at scvr.org. Donnie, Tony.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it, guys. We'll see you this weekend.
Hey, thanks for having us on.
Thanks.
Yeah,
You guys
outstanding.
have a great day.
Yeah, you
Thank you,
got
fellas.
it. All I heard was they're giving me an Indian motorcycle, right? I get to take it home and keep it forever. Did I misunderstand something?
Forever and ever and ever.
All right, great.
Yeah, no, that's going to be a lot of fun. We thank St. Paul Indian Motorcycle being involved with SCVR, and it's I've been doing Candice. You've been involved with SCVR for many, many years. You were playing with your band out at the Chili Feed, but you've been to you've been going to the Chili Feed since you were 10 years old. Hard to believe. I think Candice might have been born out there along the creek at the Chili Feed in Ellsworth, Wisconsin. But they really do a lot of work that none of us would do. It's the only motorcycle lobby we have here in the state of Minnesota, and they walk the walk, talk the talk. They put it up. They go down to the state legislature, and they're there all the time. For the things that are important to motorcycle riders and our safety here in the state of Minnesota, which is getting more and more complicated. They talked about the autonomous and connected vehicles, the Right to Repair Act. We need somebody, protecting motorcyclists and our rights, and they do a hell of a job with that. And take your training. It's fun. Trust me, it's a dang good time. I love doing it.
Yeah, we went out to the Chili Feed last summer, watched an awesome Black Sabbath band play.
Yeah,
and,
best ever.
But boy, I walked out of there like salivating. I was like, we were just talking about riding and everything, and I was like, yeah, it's been a while. I haven't ridden a bike I said last time, I was like, man, it's been like 30 years. The last time I was riding a motorcycle was the early 90s. I think it's high time I got back on literally back on the bike. So that's pretty exciting.
And that's what's nice about training. A lot of people just getting into it. Our own Lisa Miller here in the afternoons just recently, I think last year, just got her motorcycle license. Mm-hmm. Motorcycle training was a big part of that. And they don't put you out there in a big, full dresser, 800-pound motorcycle. You're on a bike to train with. You can, for a lot of these training sessions, bring your own bike. Always nice to do that if you have your own bike. But the way they walk you through it. And then when you're ready for more, they let you do more. But even for, I'm using in quotations, us experienced bikers, not only are you going to have some fun, but you've got to dust off. You've got to produce those skills. I know a lot of guys and gals that just jumped on a motorcycle and started riding one day. I don't know that, that you have to take a rider's course here if you're of a certain age to get your motorcycle license as far as a safety course goes, so you can just jump on and start riding. Not a good thing. It's getting complicated out here in the metro on the roads, and you need some skills, and you've got to practice those skills.
No question about it. We're laughing about the idea of me getting on a fat tire mini bike, but of course I can't help but look back at my own life. In the late 80s, I was operating a Vespa scooter for a couple of years.
Yeah, hey.
Just budgetary concerns. I found one for $600 and it ran great. Thing went 60 miles an hour and it was in perfect shape. It was an old P200. Yeah. But and I thought I was cool, having seen Quadrophenia, knowing a little bit about what the mods were all about. But man, I was riding this Vespa, and as we mentioned, I'm 6'3", and anytime I would be like in downtown Atlanta, going past a building that had a big picture window, I'd see myself on the reflection, and it was just every time like, don't look. God, I look like a jerk. What kind of clown rides a Vespa? That thing looked like, it looked like a tricycle underneath me. I was like, I'm not nearly as cool as I think I am.
Yeah,
I would give people rides. There was always someone on the back of that thing. It was ridiculous.
2 wheels, man. Just get me on 2 wheels, and you're just, you always feel cool whether you're looking. But I tell you what, you get on one of those St. Paul Indian motorcycles, manufactured right here in the Midwest, owned by Polaris. You can't help but look cool.
Oh hell yeah! I was, and then later in the early '90s, I got a Vespa just because I was like, I kind of miss that. I think I'll get one and just to run around town. It was fun again, and I'd talked myself out of thinking it wasn't so cool looking. And then my bassist in the Crows of the time, Johnny Cold, I went over to his house. I just bought this cool Vespa. I drive up, and literally as I'm pulling up his block, he's leaving his driveway on a Fat Boy, big ass Harley, and I'm like, okay, never mind. This was a bad idea. I don't know why I thought that I was going to have fun on a Vespa ever again. No.
There's a great story about this guy that used to take a Vespa out to Sturgis every year, and you'd pass him out on the interstate, and he would drive on the shoulder of the road out here on the interstate all the way out to Sturgis, and everybody would pass him and hug. He was a bit of a mascot, if you will, if you got to see the dude driving his Vespa out to Sturgis. I never saw him in Sturgis. I'm sure he made it eventually, but right now, we got to move along here, gang. The KQ92 talk and text line. We'll take a couple of callers, 9 and 2, at 651-989-ROCK. This morning we're playing People Are Strange, specifically the 4 people on this show. Tickets up for grabs this morning. Jeff Lynn's ELO, Monday, September 30th at the Excel. Prize provided by Live Nation, and they go on sale this Friday at 10 a.m. Win them this morning before you can buy them. Our runner-up, Epic Eagles, Friday, May 31st at Treasure Island. Prize provided by Treasure Island Resort and Casino. Thank you. 651-989-ROCK. Dial up. Good luck. And hang tight.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zepp, Tony, Candice, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show for Tuesday, March the 19th. Boy, oh boy. The California Lottery has revealed the name of one of the winners of the second largest jackpot ever. Last year in October, a Powerball ticket was sold, and it hit the jackpot $1.7 billion. It was a group of winners who bought the ticket. It's a bunch of folks. One of the names was released. I guess one guy came forward. He represents this group. His name is Theodorus Strike. It's S-T-R-U. I don't know. Theodora. Let's call him Theo. My buddy Theo is a part of a group that is splitting $1.7 billion. Boy, if you're just kind of strange, if you're out there, if you like to get your freak on and suddenly you get your hands on a winning Powerball ticket, you can get real weird real fast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hope there's not like one guy who was sick that day and didn't kick in a couple bucks.
I mean, you'd have to. I mean, if it's $1.7 billion and we're not talking about 5,000, well, it doesn't matter how many people we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. If he kicks in every week that you do this, or she, then I think you include him, right?
I think you have to. I mean, that's you're looking at about $600 million. If you take the cash option and then pay off all taxes, you're still sitting on $600 million. And at the very least, let's say there's 10 of you. You each get $60 million clear and free in your bank. And that one guy who wasn't at work that day, or the one gal, everybody, I mean, literally, I would, if you give me 60 mil and Tony hadn't given up, anteed up that day, I would eventually, totally hook him up. But you bet your ass that first day I'd be like, dude, here's $1,000, man. Here's a check for $1,000.
Oh, we definitely jerk you around until he, I don't know, then set a bomb off at work or something. I shouldn't have probably joked for so long. But no, you include them in. You're right. There's plenty for everyone to get into a lot of trouble. Well, that's why I often think, we see the example of that, right? We see it in rock and music, so all of a sudden someone has a crap ton of money or something like that, or in sport they have a crap ton of money. If they don't have a support system around them, and you rarely do in the music industry when you first hit it big, you just go crazy.
Yes, that's exactly what happens. You go a little bananas. I think that I've always said, like, I'm fine with the drinking age being 21. I was fine when it was 18. I think you should be able to vote. I'd be fine if you gave 16-year-olds the vote. I mean, I'd be fine if you did. There's a lot of things I could see. I think that the Powerball and Mega Millions, that you should be 40. You can't buy a ticket till you're 40. Just to save, if you're going to get that kind of money, you just gotta, you just don't want to give that to just about anybody.
No,
I mean,
you got to duke it out for a while in life, learn a few things.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And
get some appreciation built in.
Yeah. And you're alone on the 16-year-old thing as far as I'm concerned. I don't think you should be able to vote till you're 32.
Or that. I'm just saying. I can see. I can
right.
get behind a lot of arguments for a lot of things.
Right.
I'm able to hold two opposing thoughts in mind at the same time. At least I'd like to think I am. And I've had two opposing thoughts in my life. There are moments when I think to myself, ELO's like one of the greatest bands ever. And sometimes I go, I can't take any more of this. I need something that rocks. But that's only if you get a little too much at one time. And I do have a bad memory about a certain moment in an ELO song at a certain time in life that really need not ever be shared on the radio because, boy, some things they just cut too close to the central nervous system after all these years. That said, Jeff Lynne's ELO is on the road, and this is it. This is the last time Jeff Lynne's going to take ELO on tour, and they will be at the XL Energy Center Monday, September 30th. And I'll just go ahead and I'm calling my shot right now. I will be there as well. So I'm looking very forward to the show, having never seen the Electric Light Orchestra in any of its iterations. Last chance to see this great music performed by Jeff Lynne? Yeah, I'll be there. You know who else is going to be there? Whoever wins a game we're about to play. That's kind of exciting. Tony, what is today's venture?
Let's step into the darkness, into the weird. Let's play this. Yes, everybody has something strange, weird, out of the ordinary, a little bizarre about themselves. And of course, us kooky kids are no exception. So we're going to give you our strangeness, and you guess if our quirks are genuine or made up.
Wow, I like it.
Yep.
Bunch of weirdos on the morning show. Let's see who we got. Let's see which weirdo whisperers we have on the show today. Candice, who's contestant number one?
Mike from Oakdale.
Mike, good morning.
Good morning, gang. How you doing?
All is well on this end, sir. If I'm looking, for let's say like a nice breakfast in Oakdale, where are you going to send me? I like a good old diner, nothing special. Give me a recommendation. I got to get out to Oakdale one of these days.
There's a new restaurant called Wildwood Tavern, and that's on the border of Oakdale and Lake Elmo. That's a good one. That's a new one.
All right, fair enough. I appreciate the tip. I'm learning as I go. Mike, are you ready to play People Are Strange?
I'm ready.
Attaboy. Let's do it. Tony, why don't you lead us off?
I shall do so. Mikey, for some reason I had a cousin Sherry, and I couldn't stop calling her Sheriff, even though she would cry and beg me to stop, and I was well aware of it, and it wouldn't stop coming out of my mouth. I would always call her Sheriff.
That's got to be true.
It is true.
Boom.
Poor kid.
It's funny, Tony, and this is not critical at all. But
oh, no.
What you said was, I have a cousin for some reason. And I was going to explain to you. Well, it's because
how does that work?
Your aunt and uncle, who loved each other very much.
Oh, okay.
Got it on.
Mike, 1 for 1. Strong start, brother. Zepp, why don't you take a shot at it?
All right, here we go. We were talking motorcycles earlier this hour. I have run out of gas on my motorcycle so many times that years ago I started riding around with a 5-gallon tank of gas strapped to my back, earning the nickname Gas Can Man.
That's got to be false.
That is false.
Ooh.
Sounds dangerous, too.
It was a 4-gallon tank. Is that what you're going to tell me?
It's just, you can see Gas Man.
Yeah.
Not can.
I just keep a Camelback, on my, little water bladder full of gasoline on the back.
Yeah.
No, but twice now I've run out of gas on a motorcycle and coasted into a gas station. I feel pretty lucky about that.
Yeah. Keep pushing the odds, bro. It's your world.
All
right, Mike. You are you're 2 for 2, which is a strong start. Candice, take it away.
I can't really see out of one of my eyes, and when I was younger, they tried to correct the problem. I used to have to wear a patch around and trace with the patch to try to fix it.
I'm going to say true on that, Candice.
Yeah, just call me a little pirate.
Oh, man. Really?
It didn't really work, but I was too lazy about it. I should have been better about it.
I just know a black patch for the band when you're on stage. I'm saying that's your thing.
Yes,
I like
you
it.
should.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Sabbath tribute band with pirate gear and then the occasional sea shanty just thrown in there, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, you are 3 for 3. Here we go. I'll run one up the flagpole. Every evening, whenever it is in the day when I remove my socks for the final time that day, I will take my index finger and I will vigorously rub it in between all of my toes. I've done that since I was a little kid. I just clean out those little valleys. There are times when I do forget, and I will almost always without fail, as I'm falling asleep, or even sometimes as I'm asleep, I will jerk wide awake with the realization I've forgotten, and I cannot sleep until it's done.
That sounds weird enough to say yes.
Damn straight it is. Wow. That's right. Gotta clean out those valleys, baby, in between the toes. Mike, you just went 4 for 4. You are totally in line with how bizarre the four of us are.
You got it, guys.
Well, but look at him. He's like, well, of course. Yeah, and piece of cake. Right on, Mike. Very, very good. All right, sit tight. We're going to go to contestant number 2. Who we got, Candice?
All right. Scott from St. Louis Park.
Scott, good morning, sir.
Morning.
Are you ready to try to win some Jeff Lindsay LO tickets by playing a game we call People Are Strange?
I am ready, and I just want to say I got all of Mike's answers right. So if you want to go right to the tiebreaker.
Why waste time?
Yes.
How efficient.
I like that. That's pretty great. That's like me watching Jeopardy, and I'm just keeping my fingers. I got 6 out of 7. I am winning this game. Right on, Scott. Good luck to you, sir. Let's do it, Tony.
Yep.
All right, Scott, when I was a kid, for some reason, I thought it would be really cool to have glasses, and I was really disappointed that I didn't need them. But my parents indulged me, and I wore fake glasses with just like plastic lenses for about a year. They did nothing.
True.
That is true.
Wow.
What a goof.
Hey, man, I was upset.
Tony, we love you.
I was upset when my mom told me I didn't need braces.
Yeah,
that's
because
right.
all my brothers and sisters that had them, I was like, you just don't like me as much.
Literally one day in, you would have hated that decision.
Oh, I know.
But,
yeah, I got off Scott. All right, Scott, good, strong start, brother.
Right.
Well, according to Scott, he's now 5 for 5. So, man, what a performance. All right, Zepp.
All right, I go in with some self-hygiene here myself. I trim my fingernails every day. I may not shower for days, but a jagged fingernail just will bug the out of me. Every day.
Oh, God, every day. False.
No, I do. I trim them every damn day. Yeah, I hate feeling the time to trim my fingernails. You'd be surprised, only working 4 hours a day, how much time you have.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm trimming them right now.
The silver lining of COVID was that it finally got me to stop biting my nails in my mid-50s. I bit my nails my whole life. And I'm still excited when I can, like, undo a knot in a shoelace. I'm like, oh, my God, fingernails are so useful. It's amazing what you can do in a day.
All right. Fingernail clippers on my keychain.
Awesome. All right, Candice, let's see it. What do you got?
All right. Due to excessive sweating, I have to wear 2 pairs of socks to bed every night. Otherwise, I don't know, I'll probably never get married or anything.
Boy, that's a leap. What'd you say, Scott?
False.
Yeah, I'm not. I got weird feet, but they're not sweaty.
Okay, great. So Scott got that one.
Yeah,
Sorry to let you down.
Yeah, don't ever underestimate a man's want to spend time in the sack with a woman. Sweaty feet. Yeah, okay. Sounds good. It's not a deal breaker.
I thought it was a stretch when you said I'll probably never get married, but then I did think, well, hang on, let me picture that. Sweaty feet. Yeah, we'll see. Interesting. That's why they make hammocks, so people with sweaty feet don't. Yeah. All right, Scott. Let's see. All right, here's our last one. When I eat an apple, I eat the apple. I remove the stem, but then I don't chew around the core. I just eat the whole damn thing. Seeds, sure. Sometimes I spit them out. Sometimes I swallow them. The whole apple goes down.
True.
Absolutely true.
You are a madman.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Who the hell trims their nails every day?
I'm sorry, man. I don't. People are strange. I know. You just get. There's always a little something to clip. You never know.
The bear trap that is Zepp's dark secrets every time trips somebody up.
I thought that one was pretty lame. I thought it was like just too. But you're right. It is pretty weird.
All right, Scott, you as the runner-up. I'm sorry to say you went 3 for 4 when it mattered. You got tickets May 31st at Treasure Island. You've got Epic Eagles. That means, Mike, brother, you have won 2 tickets September 30th. Jeff Lynn's ELO at the XL Energy Center. Gentlemen, thank you both for listening, calling, and playing. Congrats.
Thank you so much, you guys.
You got it. That was awesome.
You.
What time is it? Because now my fingernails are bothering me.
Yeah, and I want an apple.
It's good for you.
We were talking earlier in the show about things that were invented 50 years ago. 1974, 2 games hit the scene. Dungeons and Dragons and Connect 4. I can tell you this, I've only played one of those, and it ain't Dungeons and Dragons.
I love Connect 4.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever... Well, I must have with the kids at some point played Connect 4. I didn't grow up with that one. I didn't realize it went back that far. Dungeons and Dragons at a church lock-in, Methodist church lock-in in Virgil, South Dakota. 4 of us, but one of us was a super big geek, and it wasn't me this time, but tried to get us into Dungeons and Dragons. And I just remember, all right, you're going to be an elf, and you're going to be, a knight, and we're doing all this role-playing, and I'm thinking to myself, there's a girl here, and the grown-ups are upstairs. Why aren't we? Where's the bottle? Let's spin the bottle. Dungeons and Dragons. You guys are never going to get laid.
You guys were just rocking a little precursor to Stranger Things, and I had no idea.
I had no idea.
I've never played
Dungeons and Dragons.
I've never played Dungeons and Dragons, and I don't know if I've ever even been in a room where a game was being played or had been. I don't know if I've ever even seen Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, there was dice and
Tony. No,
role playing.
Candice.
Yeah, I feel like I have a lot of friends that used to play that a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Connect 4, however, played that a lot. Yeah. You remember the NBA basketball point guard Rajon Rondo played at Kentucky, ended up with the Celtics for years. Rondo was a really good, a fine, a mercurial sort of guy. But one of the quirks about him was he would say, in all sincerity, he's like, I can't be beaten at Connect 4. I'm the world's greatest Connect 4 player.
Did he really?
And it was a real thing with him. He was obsessed with the game Connect 4. And there was a big article on him in Sports Illustrated that was mostly just about Connect 4. And how he equates it to so many parts of the human experience. He sees everything through the lens of Connect 4. But then at some point, like, kids will come up and challenge him. And if a Make-A-Wish kid said, I want to play you, he'd still beat that kid. He refuses to lose at Connect 4. And I've read that article, and I've never thought of anything other than that when I see a Connect 4 game. But, yeah, we used to rock Connect 4, and my kids both loved it. So that was a good thing to do when they were little, as opposed to, like I said, Dungeons and Dragons. Playing Dungeons and Dragons with your kids, that's basically just saying you have a life ahead of you as a Ren Fair LARPer, have fun. Get that mace and go attack somebody and free a damsel from some distress situation. I don't know.
I think that's not this guy. The essence of it,
How about this? This is also 50 years old. Barcodes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a barcode.
Yeah.
A dude from New Jersey named Joe Woodland was on vacation in Florida, and the idea hit him, and he drew the very first, he was drawing it in the sand, like imagining what if a barcode, he saw that. And the first barcode was scanned in June of 1974, which, of course, completely revolutionized shopping. The first ever barcode. Sure. That long ago. That's crazy, man.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these things that go back 50 years didn't really come into the, into the mainstream until maybe a decade later. But that's why it surprised me they go back that far. Rubik's Cube. Yeah. I thought all of a sudden that hit when I was a freshman in 1980. Yeah. Of course, it's South Dakota. We're about a decade behind, so that checks. But, yeah, I had no idea that went all the way back to 74.
Also in 1974, a doctor came up with a theory He just thought maybe this is something that might work. And his name was Dr. Henry Heimlich. And he came up with the Heimlich maneuver. Before the Heimlich maneuver, a choking person, the advice was just smack them on the back until they cough it up. He came up with the Heimlich maneuver, and as it turned out, he was onto something because it does work. I've seen the Heimlich maneuver one time in my life in operation literally save a little old lady choking on a gherkin. Just a little pickle.
Oh.
And it was administered by my brother Doug, who was a college student. And he ran up behind literally like a little old, looked like the old lady from Titanic, like that old and small. And she was like, and he just immediately grabbed her from behind. And the first one, he was a little tentative. And then the second one, he's like, screw it. And he went, whoo, and she went, and then applause. Oh, thank you. And she was embarrassed but thankful, and I was like, "You just literally saved a woman's life. Nice job."
And you broke my rib.
Right?
I'm sure there was bruising. I mean,
I don't.
Wow. It's just what
those
it's gonna
gherkins
be.
aren't very big, but you can't gum them. Got to chew them. Chew them up. You just can't.
Very important.
Yeah.
Use the teeth. It's a masticator's treat for sure.
Yeah. This is a fun story following St. Patrick's Day. The Irish Navy, I didn't know this, that there was an Irish Navy, but there is an Irish Navy. They have one ship with one job. We'll tell you what that one job is and why it didn't get done recently when we come back here at 8:17. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It's Tuesday, March the 19th, which means we're just a couple days removed from St. Patrick's Day. The Irish Navy, which is not a bar or a euphemism, it's an actual thing. The Ireland has a navy.
Yeah.
That's news to me.
Right.
Never really thought twice about it before, but hearing it, I'm like, oh, yeah. I've never really heard about the Irish Navy. They have, let's see here, one active ship. One.
Okay.
They have one active ship. The ship is called the George Bernard Shaw, which is just great. Now, only the Irish Navy would name their one ship after a playwright.
Yeah, right.
You gotta love the idea of. The normal Navy terms? Are they all referencing George Bernard things like hoist the Pygmalion? I mean, just like what in the world? What's an man and Superman? You've got your man and Superman over there. I'm just thinking about like the most literate Navy in the world. They're all just referencing great playwrights and especially the works of George Bernard Shaw. But that's neither here nor there. They have one ship in the Irish Naval Service, the George Bernard Shaw. And last weekend, over the St. Patrick's Day holiday weekend, there was a call. Apparently, the Navy was, the ship was needed. There was a delivery of cocaine packages off the coast in Ireland, off the coast of County Cork. The police were working on shutting down a smuggling ring. It involved waterproof containers filled with tens of millions of dollars worth of cocaine, which had been thrown overboard off the coast. There was only one problem. This happened this past weekend, St. Patrick's Day. The George Bernard Shaw was part of the celebratory festivities, and they had to say, thanks for calling, but we are unable to assist you right now.
Their one ship can't make it. Well, it's St. Patrick's Day. You don't think we're going to go out and actually do the one thing that we're supposed to be doing on St. Patrick's Day, do you? Don't think that the folks dropping off the cocaine didn't know about this.
Oh, of course they did.
Policy,
Yeah, no question about it. The police turned to a team of local divers. It wasn't quite the same. They were thinking like, let's get the George Bernard Shaw to come over and we got some cocaine into waters and we'll get No, sorry, we're partying. We're part of the festivities. We've got flags and fireworks. We can't come help you with your cocaine bust.
Hello, sailor. Looking for a little fun.
Yeah, boy. The waterproof tens of millions of dollars worth of cocaine. I think I mentioned this story. My wife and I were married on St. John in the Virgin Islands, and there's a local legend down there, and by all accounts, checked out to be completely true, which is a gentleman on the island who was just working like as a barback or a bartender, just a guy renting a place, trying to, like most people who live in the Virgin Islands, they're just running from something. I mean, wonderful, wonderful spirited folks, but I'm always like, who are you on the lam from? But anyway, this one guy sitting at the east end of the island years ago in the early 80s watched like a cigarette boat come jetting through at enormous high speeds with a police boat on his what do you call it? Not on his heels, on his wake.
So what is that? You got the bow and the aft on his aft.
There on his aft. A boat was flying through a little channel, being pursued by police boats, and dude noticed them throwing big bales of stuff off the boat. And this was in about 20 feet of water. 20 feet of water that's crystal clear. It's the Caribbean. And he waited a little while. Water settles down. He waits, and is like, I got to get out there. He takes his little dinghy out, snorkel, takes a gulp of air, goes down, and comes up with a few bindles of what turned out to be cocaine. Big bales, I should say. And then had to figure out what to do with it. Long story short, the guy has a beautiful home right on the east end of that island. He was able to find someone to buy it for pennies on the dollar, which was still more than enough for him to build his own house.
That's the dream. That's the Caribbean dream right there. You're living.
That is the dream.
There's a Minnesota couple that retired down in Florida. I get to know a little bit, and they told me down there, I forget exactly where they were at on the coast, toward the southern end, might have been Miami or Key West. I don't know. And anyway, there was a news report that a bunch of bales of cocaine were floating in from Cuba. There had been a bust, and the ship dumped them all, and they were just scattered around in the night, and they were washing up on shore. And I remember him texting me going, I'm going to go down there and see if I can't get a bale of cocaine. I'm like, do it, man. And he went down there, and so did everyone else. He said it was like spring break down on the beach. There, not only were there thousands of people waiting for bales of cocaine to roll in, there were hundreds of police officers also waiting. So it was more of just a spectator sport at that point. Things. Yeah, didn't end up with his big bale of cocaine in his nice big house on the island. But I was thinking about that. If you only have one ship in your Navy, that's pretty exclusive to be in the Irish Navy. I mean, that's more exclusive than being a Navy SEAL for the United States. I mean, you get on that boat, either that or it's punishment, for you're off to the Irish Navy. No, my God, it's 5 years in prison, or, you've got to do 5 years in the Irish Navy. I don't know.
The Callahan twins are drunk again. What are we going to do? Send them to the Navy.
Yeah.
Oh no, God, no, it's a fate worse than death. Nothing's gonna straighten out those Callahan twins quite like a stint on the George Bernard Shaw. That's the worst Irish accent ever broadcast.
I don't know. You need a couple of drinks. I bet one Guinness, and you're just rolling. When I was there doing the broadcast for KQRS, I was not going to be that guy that slipped into the Irish accent after a couple of beers. I'm like, I'm not going to be that guy. I don't want to be that D-bag, the American over there doing that. You can't help yourself. There's no way around it. It became a running joke with hundreds of broadcasters from around the world in Ireland. We're not going to do it. The Japanese broadcasters had an Irish lilt going after a few JMOs, big gingers.
It's impossible. You spend a little bit of time there, and suddenly you're not talking about, you don't say third, you say turd. The H's just go right away. It's like, he was on turd. He was on turd base, and he came around, and I'm the worst. I completely just start aping every accent. Anywhere I go, I'm just, I spent the better part of a year on tour with a Welsh band. And I would get Stereophonics, and I'd get off that bus after a month-long run, and I'd come home in Rosemary. Like, I'd be home for an hour, and she'd go, okay, literally, enough. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, stop I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And then I would hear myself, I tell you what, bud, hi. She's like, I? You said I instead of yes or okay, sure.
Yeah, give us one good y'all and you're back in form,
That's it. That's all it takes. Yeah, I'm always, a Guinness at a pub with an Irish guy and I'll start speaking Irish. But in general purposes, I am 3 drinks away from a pretty good Southern accent. It's in there. It comes out, man. That's my true drinking accent. It just gets lit. Man, I'll tell you what, man. I mean, it starts. I hear it in myself.
Yeah, that'll be our code for getting you drunk. Let's take Steve out and get him talking Southern.
Let's get some.
He drank himself Southern.
That's it. Good Lord. He got tore slap up. There's a Southern expression for you.
Yeah.
I love tore slap up. Always been one of my favorites. We mentioned earlier also in the show about things we missed when we were kids. There really is. When I think about that, think about just general childhood wonder. Nothing in the world better than falling asleep in the car and waking up tomorrow in your own bed. Like, you just have no idea. Like, I don't know. I got in the back seat and I was arguing with Doug about something. Next thing I know, it's the next morning and I'm in my bed in my pajamas. That was me, man. I mean, if I got into a car after twilight, it was over. Yeah. I'm going to wake up and it's going to be tomorrow and it's going to feel pretty darn good.
I think I may have done that irresponsibly with lots of alcohol involved. But yeah, mom and dad taking care of you. What's not to miss? I mean, eventually it just drove you crazy and you hated it. Even mom's, mothering, smothering a bit or whatever wasn't cool anymore. But I'll tell you what, you only need to do something like probably run off to college. For me, it was the service or whatever you're doing. But get yourself out of the home, not even out of the home, but out of the state. Change your environment and you miss your mommy like that. And I mean, not mom, but I mean mommy. I was surprised. I think I was sitting there sobbing my first day of basic training going, just want to go home and see my mommy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, there's nothing like a mother's love.
I didn't get to experience basic training. I did go to college for reasons that to this day remain a mystery. I just didn't know what else to do. There's no mystery at all. I guess I should go to school. And I chose a college simply because my sister and 2 brothers had gone, Western Kentucky. I had no thought of why I was going there. But I didn't have that first day on campus missing my mommy thing, probably because when my mom dropped me off, I literally don't think the car came to a complete stop.
And there was a push involved.
Combat roll.
And I'm the last kid out of the house. That woman saw just green grass and blue skies in her future. Not ever. I mean, she was literally looking like, I have got complete control of the remote control for the rest of my life now. Get out of my car. I mean, it was so fast. And I of course imagined that whole day like, God, I'm the last one. She's seeing her 8th little chicken out of the nest. She's going to be a wreck. No. She was like, okay, honey, I'll see you when I see you. Gone. Like, wow. Did not see that one coming at all. I was waiting for a Lifetime movie scene. Like, I was waiting I thought I was going to have to, really pull out some sort of, John Cusack high school, heartbreak scene out of this. Not a chance. No.
Spun the tires. Well, I bet the first one, I bet she, whoever that was in the fam there for you, I bet she laid loose the tears.
You know what? That bastard, my oldest brother, Bob, 14 years older than me, he did a couple years of community college first. And so then in like 1972, I guess it would have been, or 71, 2 years of community college, and then he goes off to school. He got a degree in journalism and then had a great career. He's a newspaper man for 40 some odd years. When he left to go to college, so he was already probably 20. He was a junior starting at a school in Virginia. We lived in Maryland. We all gathered in the driveway. Neither one of my parents went to college. Oldest son going off to school. It's a big day. It's like, holy crap, this is the first member of our family. And I mean, that includes my aunts, uncles. Like, nobody had gone to college. Bob's going off to school. We're all in the driveway to say goodbye. And, hugs and hugs. And he had an old car, a Rambler. He was going to drive it off to school. And he came to me, his youngest brother. I am 6 years old. And he puts his hand out like for a handshake. And we were huggers. And I was like a little weird. And he shook my hand and he said, well, Steve, you're going to have a great life. I know it's going to be good. And, I wish you all the best. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, didn't anyone tell you when you go to college, you never come back? And I literally went, and this is him all day long, dry as the Sahara Desert.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, and I looked around and nobody else seemed too broken up about it. And I remember thinking so clearly, like, why didn't anyone tell me this ahead of time?
Right.
And I shook his hand and he got in his car and drove away. And I'm like, how is nobody else freaking out about this? I mean, I could not get over it. And I go up to my room and I shut the door. I didn't have my own room. I shared it with two brothers. But I walked in there, shut the door, and I'm just wailing on my bed, just bawling my eyes out. And my mom comes in and she's like, oh, honey, I know it's tough to see Bobby go, but, he'll be back for Labor Day in 2 weeks or whatever. And I was like, no, he won't. You're just trying to make me feel better. She's like, honey, he's coming home. And I'm like, he told me. I'm screaming, he said he's never coming back. And my mom her face went red. She had smoke coming out of her ears. She's like, he told you what? And I was like, he said, he shook my hand. He said, he never come. He said, he never come back. And I'm out of my mind. And it's like a 2-hour drive to where he was going to school. And my mom is like waiting, tapping her fingers by the phone because he said he'd call to say I got there.
Yeah.
Back, long distance calls, it was like a big thing. Make sure you call. And she answered that phone. She's like, your brother, Steven, needs to talk to you. And I'm like, I get on the phone, and he's like, I was kidding. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. You're funny. You're still cool. I'm just devastated. Took a year off my life that day.
I suppose being at the end of the chain, the youngest of 8, you didn't get to. I was the oldest. I was the prankster. I was the bit of the bully. Fun-loving bully, I like to think. But yeah, I'm sure you got your shots in, but you were the later. You were the low. Yeah, you were the one. You were the easy target. No,
when I was that age, and my brother Doug, who's he's one kid older than me. He's 2 years older than me. He just came out with a real thick skin. Like he just didn't let anything bug him. And then I was the kid. Everything got to me. I remember very clearly being laid on the dining room table as my older brothers had knives and forks out and they were like slicing them into each other, and the chant was very simple: we're having Stevie for dinner tonight, we're having Stevie. And I'm literally laying there going, no you're not, freaking thinking, well maybe we are having Stevie for dinner tonight. Again, no one tells me. I'm always the last to know these things. There was a lot of what's the youngest one doing? Let's ruin his day.
Yeah, it's the best. I only had 2 to pick on. Actually, my sister was 8 years younger than me, so I really couldn't pick on her. That's just a little too young. Mm-hmm. She's a sister, but then my brother had someone to pick on. But then, I would, I'd beat him mercilessly if he went after my sister. So, siblings, it's fun, it's cool.
Yeah, kind of, sort of, at times.
Leave a scar.
Cool. It was cool outside the house. I grew up definitely in the kind of home where, because I survived my home, the real world was not threatening to me at all. I was like, do you see the gauntlet I walk through every day just getting to breakfast? Like, come on, man. Like, bullies at school, I was hardly concerned because, I could endure a lot more than the average kid because I took it at home every day. I mean, there were times when older kids would pick on me and I would laugh at them. I was like, please, you think I'm scared of you? Have you seen my house lately? Like, what are you, nuts? And there's nothing that pisses off a bully more than their little punk mark that they're going to pick on, looking at them going, please, try harder. Yeah. This isn't even registering. The needle's not even moving, dude. I have 5 older brothers.
Probably prepped you to be in a band. Right?
For sure. And then, but there's also the flip side is, but if a bully did pick on me, if an older kid picked on me, then the Gorman's older brother strike force would be activated. And it's like, a kid my own age, I'm on my own. But if somebody in Doug's class or Dave's class is picking on me, they're going to get destroyed. It was like being a mob kid in that regard in the neighborhood.
I remember being in high school. My brother, real smart Alec, has a real wise guy with that mouth of his. Very smart, that sort of thing, and not much of a fighter. I was a bit more of a scrapper than he was in high school and had a reputation for that. But I remember Tony Hiles coming up to me in the gym there one day and saying, hey, Zepp, I want to beat your brother up after school. He's really been getting after me about about being dumb and stupid and everything, and in class. And Tony was a big football player for us, and he goes, so after school, I'm going to go beat him up, okay? I said, I don't think that's going to be cool, man. I don't think I'm going to let you do that. I think then you and I are going to have to tangle. He's like, well, I'd rather not. Well, I'd rather not either, man. But if you're going to go after Chris, we're going to have to do this. Oh, man. I'm like, I'll let you know if I change my mind. But until then, I would say, study more and stay away from Chris. Yeah, because he's gonna savage you. For plunking your test.
I had an issue once where I was away from my high school already. I was in college, but my mom worked there. I was back at a basketball game. So I'm like a junior in college, or maybe even a senior, and there was a high school senior on a trip, and he mouthed off to my mom, like really rude, got right in her face about something. And I'm like 21 years old watching this, and I just lost my mind. I mean, it was just, and I waited for it was a basketball trip we'd all taken to the next town over, and I was just going along with my mom. I wasn't there like I wasn't Wooderson and Daisy Confused trying to hang out with high school kids. I was literally just there with my mom. Yeah. But this kid mouthed off and got right in her grill, and she looked at me. The first thing he said was, "This is not for you. Don't worry about this." And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to worry about it. I was losing my mind. The bus pulled back up at the school, and as he stepped off the bus, I just kicked his ass. I mean, I just went off on him. And then I dragged him into my mom's office to apologize, and then he said to my mom, "Do you know what your son just called me?" And he said every word I had said, none of which I can repeat on the radio. He said, and he thought that would freak my mom out, and she, of course, mother of 8 children, looked at him and goes, "Yeah, that's about right."
Yeah.
I'd say it too if I had to. And so anyway, but the problem was I'd gone to high school with this kid's older brother. This kid that I beat up was not a threat and never would be. Very different personality. His older brother, they grew up on a farm, and he was like a farmer when he was 7. And he was the kind of guy who would he could palm a car battery. I don't know. He was just like, those thick wrists and super strong hands. And he had been our soccer goalie, and he was just rough and didn't feel pain. He's one of those guys, like, you'd kick him in the face and he'd be like, "What are you doing, man?" He's just like that guy. And at the next basketball game I go to, that dude walks in the gym and comes over and sits down next to me. I haven't seen him in 3 years since we graduated. And he sits right next to me. And I'm not kidding. He could break my back in 2 seconds. And we both know it. Yeah. And he looks at me and he goes, "What happened?" And I said, "Your brother mouthed off to my mom." And he literally looks at me and goes, "He did?" I go, "Yeah." And I told him what his brother said. And he goes, "All right." And he patted me on the knee and got up and left. He was like, "Oh, yeah, got it." I was like, I've never been more relieved. I mean, I was like, man, I kicked that kid's ass, and now I'm about to have my ass kicked. I guess that's the nature of things.
Yeah, but he has a mom too, and I bet he patted you on the knee and went home, and his brother got a talking to or more.
No question about it.
I love it. Hey, you guys want to hear a real short version of Mellencamp's Jack and Diane? We got some audio here for you before the top of the hour. He's doing a show Sunday night in Toledo. I don't know why, of all artists, because if you're going to a John Mellencamp show, I assume you're a John Mellencamp fan, like I have been since I was a teenager. And I don't know why you would decide to heckle John Mellencamp, but someone tried. We have the audio, and it's interesting because he's coming to Somerset, the big Outlaw Festival coming here with Bob Dylan and Willie Nelson. That's happening in September. Going to be a fantastic show. Even makes a reference in there. Hey, if I wanted this kind of crap, I'd play outdoors. He's going to be Mellencamp's The Short Patience coming up on the KQ Morning Show. Hang tight.
It's the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS. Zepp, Tony, Candice, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It's Tuesday, March the 19th. Just a reminder, if you go see a concert, and especially if you go see a show, a performance by an aging singer-songwriter playing mostly an acoustic show who's taken time to tell you stories in between songs, just enjoy it. Read the room. Have a good time. Listen to the music. Listen to the stories. Appreciate the fact that you get to do that occasionally. Don't be like the dude in Toledo who went to see John Mellencamp and thought he was at a punk gig, apparently. Boy, oh boy. People, the conversation flares up every time something like this happens of what are your rights as a concert goer? And I bought the ticket. I should be able to do what I want. I will always side on the guy on stage is right. You bought a ticket to see the show that they decide to put on. Yeah. And again, more than anything, just read the room. If it's a quiet, intimate, acoustic performance, shut up. Nobody else paid money to hear you talk.
Yeah, you know what you can do?
What?
You can leave. You can walk out, just like a movie you don't like. Just get up and remove yourself. You can even bother them at the ticket window to get your money back if you like. Bother those folks for a little bit. They're getting paid too. I wouldn't suggest it, but the shouting out at the concert, especially at Mellencamp. This is a man, if you're a fan, that in an interview in Rolling Stone magazine back at when he was really busting big in the late '80s, Scarecrow had come out and he'd had so many successful albums at that point, huge deal, and said, hey, listen, I basically have two moods, okay and pissed off.
Yeah, true.
I mean, that's just the mood of Mellencamp, but when he's on stage, he gives you it all, and he's a great artist.
Oh, yeah, his Behind the Music had my favorite line of any Behind the Music ever, which is he said, basically, at the end of the day, I've never been afraid to tell anybody to kiss my ass. And a guy who I interviewed Mellencamp a few years ago for my syndicated show, and this is the kind of guy he is. I got an email. Hey, do you want to interview John Mellencamp? I was like, well, of course. Like, what's he doing? And he wasn't doing anything. He didn't have a new record out, or no, that's not true. He put out a song. It was him and Springsteen together. Remember that? It was like
I remember that. Of course,
It's a really good song. But what we ended up talking about was painting more than anything.
Yeah.
But this is who you're dealing with. We got on. I said, hey, man, it's a pleasure to talk with you. And he said, oh, yeah. And I know couple of the guys in his band I'd met and knew over the years, but I'd never met him. And he said, yeah, well, I heard, I got a call, and they said Westwood One. Man, I remember I knew a guy at Westwood One, like back in 1980. He was real cool, so I figured, yeah, let's do it. Like, that was his reference point.
Yeah.
Like, he knew a guy 39 years ago at the same network and liked that guy, so sure, let's do the interview or whatever
That's
it was.
All it takes.
And I was like, that's great. And we talked couldn't have been better. Gregarious guy, outgoing, great stories. We talked for like an hour. But along the way, you could tell he'd like, you know what bristles me, man? I mean, he would just say like, there are things. But he talked at length about when he got a record deal. And he was in New York City, young kid from a tiny town in Indiana. And he is at the record company with his manager. And they put the contract down in front of him. And that's the first time he ever saw the words Johnny Cougar. Mm-hmm. And they handed him a pen and said, sign here. And he said, what the hell is Johnny Cougar? And the guy said, we can't sell Mellencamp. That's not a name for a rock star. And he said, well, that's my name, so suck it. And the guy looked at him and said, okay, well, I'll put you on a bus back to Indiana tonight then. And it was that simple. And he said, man, I just signed that piece of paper. And from that moment forward, he was like, by God, I'm going to make it and I'm going to be so successful, they have to let me change my name back. So, I mean, he started his career cornered and pissed off.
Yeah.
That said, after all these years, you know, he's generally speaking, I think he's probably okay with where he is in the world. All of this is a setup but if you go see him play, he ain't going to suffer your nonsense. And of course, as it is 2024, we've got the audio to prove it.
And she went, it's just like you, buddy, to be a smart aleck when I'm talking to Jesus. And then it got real quiet.
No.
What do you think I've been doing? Hey, Joe, find this guy and let me see him after the show. Anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted. Guys, I can stop this show right now and just go home. Since you've been so wonderful, I'm going to cut about 10 songs out of the show. Here we go. A little ditty. Jack down to Maggie. Show's over.
Yeah. Okay, so what was happening? He was he's in mid-story.
Yeah.
And a guy screams out, "Play some music."
Oh, that's what he said.
That's what the guy says. And he says, "What do you think I've been doing, you blank, blank, blank?" And he goes, "You don't know me." And then he says, "Hey, Joe," to a crew member, "find that guy. Let me see him after the show." And then another person in the crowd screams, "Play Authority song." And that's when he says, "I can stop now and go home. Since you've been wonderful, I'll cut 10 songs out of the show." Then he, as you heard, then he plays 9 seconds of Jack and Diane. He goes, "You know what? Show's over." Gets up and leaves. It's like, yo, man.
I mean, that's listen.
Take it easy.
You've got John Cougar. That's the first album right there. I Need a Lover. By the way, it's all in his music. If you listen to it, if you're a fan, his second album, one of my favorite album, if not my favorite album name of all time. It helped define me as a teenager. This was what was in my Walkman when I was out throwing bales all day. And the name of the album is Nothing Matters and What If It Did?
Yeah.
Then American Fool. Then an album simply named Uh-huh. So it's all been there. It's all right there. And I don't know why you'd pay money to go to a show to heckle John Mellencamp. And listen, when he comes here for the summer set Outlaw thing, it's an outdoor show. It's a different environment. People are kind of going nuts. I doubt he's going to get that intimate. This was a smaller show in Toledo, Ohio. It was a storytelling show. And you got jackwagons out there. Play Authority song. As he's playing shut.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're lucky I wasn't in there. I mean, I'm a guy that was thrown out of a Mumford show in St. Paul, because there was the douche behind me wouldn't shut up, and I took my 2 daughters. I got kicked out. I said, "No, you stay."
Mumford and Sons gig.
Yeah, I got thrown out.
Nice.
Yeah, I got thrown out. Yeah, I told the guy, and they threw him out too.
Okay.
I mean, he just decided to show up all drunk, sit right behind us, and do they play rock and roll? And I gave him about, 2 or 3 comments, and then stood up and turned around and confronted him, and just like the guy kicked out, I'd been kicked out of like 3 Vikings games. I threw a beer on a Dallas Cowboy fan, and got both of us kicked out. My brother, drove like 8 hours from Dallas to watch the game, got us both thrown out of the game. So I get the whole Mellencamp thing, and excited to see him, but I won't be heckling him.
Well, the guy's, he's pushing 70. Just shut the hell up and let him do what he wants to do. Hasn't he given you enough in 44 years of records and songs? I mean, it is absurd to me. They always say, well, you can't go, freedom of speech doesn't mean you can shout fire in a crowded theater. And it sure as hell doesn't mean you can go yell at John Mellencamp he's telling a story about his grandmother.
Yeah.
And someone screams, "Play more music." Anyway, like I say, I always come down on the side of the guy that is whose name is on the ticket, rather than the dude, as you said, the jackwagon who's like, "But this is my only night out all month." Okay, that's a you problem.
Yeah,
that's not everyone else in the room getting distracted by you problem, unless you make it one. I don't go to a lot of quiet acoustic-y gigs, not for no reason particular. It's not like I avoid them, but I would not be happy at all if I go to see that show and someone's yelling. That's no different than when people are talking in a movie theater. It's just like I am fully committed to the idea of we're all here. We should all be respectful of everyone else's space and experience, and just shut the hell up.
Yeah, their show. You don't like it, just split, man.
But I guess that would make me an outlier in the modern age. Mellencamp is, let's see, how old is he? I say he's pushing 70. He might actually be 70 by now.
I would think so, probably.
He's 72.
Yeah.
72 years old. That means right now he's peaking vocabulary-wise.
Is he at
your
72?
vocabulary, your strongest vocabulary is late 60s, early 70s. And then there is a little bit of a decline. But also, happiness, apparently, is at its highest level. It starts at 69, and for the rest of your life. Most people are the happiest in their 70s. General happiness, which has a lot to do with context, recognizing perspective, being very much appreciative that you're just still here. I mean, by the time anybody turns 70, they've lost a lot of people they care about.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things. When you look at random parts of the human experience, when are you best at them? It's pretty fascinating. Learning a new language. Your ability to learn a new language peaks at the age of 7.
Yeah, when you're super young.
You can still do it, but it's really good if you start at 7 or 8 years old.
What about Babbel? If I get no, I'm not learning a new language ever, probably. That seems so damn daunting. I know people do it. My one daughter that I think she ended up taking like 4 years of Spanish, and she can hold her own as far as I know.
Right.
She might just be jiving me. I don't know, but it sounds good to me. Sounds legit.
I wanted, when Connell was born in the summer of 2000, I had this brilliant idea. I did not have the bank account to back it, but I was like, let's get a French nanny, a Japanese nanny, a Chinese nanny. Let's just surround him with like people who speak 6 different languages and have them all around at all times. And it's all one language.
Yeah.
Like you just grow up multilingual without even recognizing how cool it is. And I mean, that's literally, I said it, and then I went on about my life. But for a minute there, I was like, wouldn't that be the cool? Like, if you had all the money you needed, that's what I'd spend it on. I wouldn't be like, I'd still have a private plane too. But the thing is, I would have loved for my kids to have grown up with people in the house just speaking multiple languages at all times.
What a cool idea. Yeah.
Well, they have those immersion schools, I know I have a friend that has his daughters in an immersion school, and that's what I understand. That's what they do there. They learn another language, and you're immersed in it.
Yeah, we a friend in L.A., their kid went to the l'Alliance Française, a French school in L.A. And there's one in L.A., there's one in New York, and so it's like showbiz industry kids that go there, and so wherever you are, it's the same classes. Like, it's kids that are bouncing back and forth with their parents. So if they're in the New York apartment for a month and then they go back to the house out in Santa Monica, whatever it is, I'm just assuming that's what people do. But you can just, you don't miss school. You just go, it's the same class lesson, same schedule in each place. And ultimately what you get is some, Hollywood kids who are probably, soulless at the end of the day, but they speak perfect French. That'd be cool. It'd be great if you have a kid who's fluent and like truly fluent in another language, you're fluent in another language. It just opens up your doors too. You're just like, read this for me. What does this say? Let's go. It'd be great.
Dave Mordahl has been using Babbel every day for the past year studying German.
For English?
No, German. Just like randomly. He's like, I'm just going to do this every day for a year. And he can, it's really, really creepy. And when we go to lunch and he's speaking to me in German for no reason.
I've been told German's the easiest language for English speakers to learn.
Is it?
That's what I've been told by people who speak German. It's the closest. It's the easiest. There's so much of it. It's almost like it's a formula, and once you tap into it, you can make it just goes really quickly. I don't know how you can possibly learn German and speak German without completely just doing German shtick at all times. It was just, I would never stop just running shtick if I could speak German.
Right? No kidding. I thought you could with that accent. It was so spot on. I'm just waiting for you to trip into, your fluent German. Although with Mortal, I'm thinking about it now. He's got that gravel in his voice, from all those years of lighting him up. But he's got the gravel in his voice, and he's always got that smart. It's hard for him, I would think, to be sincere, because even if he's being sincere, you're like, what do you mean? Are you messing with me, man? Mm-hmm. No, I'm being sincere. That's a good line, Zepp. Like, what do you mean? Like it was really bad? So him speaking German, that kind of fascinates me. When he gets it down, something down, maybe a couple of jokes, we had to have him call in, Candice, and lay some German on us.
I'm all for it. That sounds great. Science, this is by the way, this thing I'm talking about, best age to do certain things. It's a bunch of scientific studies. So they determine learning a language, 7 or 8. That's when your ability, you can learn anytime, but it peaks. It's at its greatest moment, 7 or 8. The ability to remember people's names, really strong when you're about 22 years old. Which would explain why I'm terrible at it right now.
Right when
22,
you're
I didn't care.
Yeah, right. You're right. The networking gene kicks in at 22.
Yeah, I didn't care at 22, too much attitude. But now, at some point in my career, we get to meet a few people. We're lucky enough. We go out and do the boat trips. We got them coming up again this summer. I'd love to we run into a lot of the same people, but only on a yearly and annual basis. And I'd love to do a little better remembering names, but I understand that would take some effort, and I'm well past 22.
Remembering
So,
people's
forgive me.
faces peaks at about 31 years old. But I'm still good at that. If I've met you one time, I probably won't remember your name, but I will know your face, and I'll probably remember what we talked about. I'm really good at that too. But I just have that name. It's a block at this point. I'm sure I could pick up one of those random things where they say, just imagine next time I meet a guy named Jim, I'll picture a Lysol wipe, and for some reason that'll connect in my brain. I never understand how that works. Doing math in your head peaks around 50 years old. That's when you're the best at doing math in your head. They left the word remedial out for me. I can add single and double digit numbers. If you want me to add 113 and 257, give me a minute. Okay, it's gonna take a hot second.
It just takes me as long as it takes to open up the app on my phone.
There you go.
I have a smartphone now. I don't have to do math. In fact, I don't even have to open up the app. I can just ask Siri. She'll just spit it out for me. She's brilliant.
What a world.
She's the best to be in a relationship with. I love her.
Well, listen,
she just put out.
She's always she's always going to be there for you, Zepp. Never question that.
No, I would never question that. Well, we've got a little blast of, not a little blast, this little winter swing that we've got coming through here starting this weekend. Looks like it goes into maybe the middle of next week. Some measurable snow. Going to start falling here Thursday night in the metro. And then after that, we'll really, in earnest, get into allergy season. My nose is tingling. Like when you talk about pickles on the tongue, right? I start talking about allergies. I can feel it right here in my nose. Candice, I know, don't you have some allergies too?
They never stop.
They never stop. Some allergy tips. If you have an allergy tip, I'd love to hear it. Sincerely. 651-989-ROCK. On the now Benadryl, I take all the pills, but I get side effects. I don't like the side effects. If there's something natural, homeopathic, I'm not, I'm willing to, mix it up and try different things. You got any good allergy remedies? The internet has a few. We'll talk about those. You're about 9-7. No, let's make it 922. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show, Tuesday, March 19th. Last night out in Utah, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they beat the Jazz. 114-104 was the final score. But the story of the night was Anthony Edwards. Ant-Man had a dunk that will be shown on NBA highlights forever. It was one of those, maybe 2 a season. Is this brutal? He took a pass from the right wing as he entered the lane, and he jumped up and over John Collins of the Jazz, former Timberwolf John Collins, and threw a dunk down that was just merciless. I mean, mind-boggling. Truly worth getting online and searching if you have not yet seen it. I think, do we have the audio from this? I certainly meant to say, I sent the tweet earlier. It's just when the announcers scream, the arena explodes. Nobody can believe it. Today, in case you're wondering what this dunk was like, it's in the old days you'd say he posterized him. He put him on a poster, meaning this dude, John Collins, will be on an Ant-Man poster for the rest of his career, getting dunked on so violently. On John Collins' Wikipedia page today, it says, on July 7th, 2023, Collins was traded to his hometown team, the Utah Jazz, for Rudy Gay and a future second-round pick. And then it goes on to say, John Collins sadly passed away during a basketball game against Minnesota on March 18th, 2024. He was murdered by fellow NBA player Anthony Edwards. which it is just one of those. I mean, like I say, there are 1 or 2 dunks a year that you will see where someone just gets hammered on to this level. Tony, let me hear this.
And only had 1 shot attempt in that first half. Another turnover for Utah. Edwards gets it back and threw it down. And 1,
Yeah, I mean, it's so unexpected and so completely absurd.
Well, it's ferocious. It was beyond a dunk. He threw it into the net.
Yeah, he threw it down hard. I mean, he was angry at the ball. He was angry at the rim. He's angry at the game of basketball.
Is this an assault charge, do you think, probably?
I tell you what, man.
Is this...
It's so good.
Is this something we want our children watching?
Yeah, it's the initial comparisons to MJ when Ant-Man was first couple years in the league, people were going, there's something about him that makes me, a lot of people are saying, reminds me of young Michael Jordan. The physicality and the not just the athletic ability, but the intensity with which he goes to the rack. And I, of course, like everybody, rolled my eyes, and now I'm going, actually, no, he's just a stronger MJ. He's just a bigger MJ. It's wild to see. But anyway, and the Timberwolves are really a pretty deep, strong, wonderful basketball team this year. Hopefully, they finally have a playoff series or two that is representative of what they're able to do in the regular season, because right now that is a hell of a good basketball team. I'm getting ahead of myself.
That might be a damn good football team. Can we get them in some pads and purple?
You don't think Anthony could block and catch a pass? That's a tight end.
That's what I'm saying.
My God.
I've had a chance to get out and watch him this season, and forgetting really just how amazing, just what insane athletes these guys are. And on the football field, you've got the pads. You're a bit removed from the game. I don't ever get down on the sideline of an NFL football game, but you feel like you can get close enough that in an NBA game. Hockey, it's they're out there on the pads, they're skating around. They're just not as big and dominating physical specimens as they are in the NBA. And then you watch them start playing, and you're like, they're aliens. They're not even really human beings.
Yeah, my friends that I mentioned earlier in the show, I toured with a Welsh band called Stereophonics. Guys grew up in Wales. They know two things. They know soccer and rugby. And great athletes in both sports, but they're, Lionel Messi's the greatest soccer player ever. He's 5'7".
Right.
Your average rugby prop, maybe 6'1", thick, fast, all those kind of things. And these guys grew up thinking basketball was like a non-contact sport, like it was just sort of a soft game. And I was laughing before I was touring with them. We were just friends, and there was a conversation came up one day, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And they called it netball. Netball is a game that girls used to play in Commonwealth nations, which is not. It's kind of like basketball, but it's really not. And they were saying, "Oh, it's just like netball." There was a time when the Stereophonics were on tour. I think they were out opening for U2 of all, so they're out with a huge band in the States, and they got tickets to see a Knicks game, and they sat courtside at Madison Square Garden. None of them have ever seen a basketball game, much less from the court. And afterwards, they were all like, they couldn't even speak about it. They were like, because when you're down close to an NBA court, I'm 6'3", and I'm astonished at how big those guys. I mean, Steph Curry's my height. He looks tiny on TV, comparatively.
Yeah, he does.
He's 6'3". He's taller than most people. And on that court, he is a water bug. And you get on the court and you go down there and you see those 7-footers and 6 guys who are 6'8", 6'10", flying around and just destroying each other physically under the rim. It is truly sensational. It's mind-boggling
that you can get that close to the physicality too. And I know not everybody has those seats. I mean, I'm not talking about courtside. I'm just talking about some lower level seats. Sid the Kid was a photography assistant, not for the Timberwolves, but the photographer for the Timberwolves. So she would go to all the Timberwolves games and she'd hang out under the basket. So I would watch the Timberwolves games to get a glimpse of Sid the Kid down there. Now, Sydney is, I think, now 5'3" or 5'4" at the time, probably a couple inches shorter than that. And I said, those movies where they make everybody much smaller, like in Lord of the Rings, or there was even Hugh, I'm forgetting his name, the English actor in the Willy Wonka movie recently.
Grant.
That's what she looked like. That they had just shrunk her down to a tiny little person. But they would walk by and tap her on the top of the head or give her a little scruff. And I'm like, it literally looks like you're out there with giants. I mean,
sure.
And I guess they were, but physical. But let's hope we get a Minnesota team that gets the cities excited about, playing a little playoff because here we go again. We're thinking, Wild. I mean, the Wild aren't even going to frickin' make the playoffs at this point. I think they lost to the Blues over the weekend and are falling back instead of making a run here for it. But it'd be nice to see the Wolves not only make the playoffs but do something exciting and get people energized about that team a little bit.
And speaking of the Wolves and the athleticism, there's a lot of people out there. For years, the word used to be, the greatest athletes are professional soccer players. They run 6 miles a game, and they would say, no, to be able to sprint 80 yards with a ball in your feet, blah, blah, blah. Thierry Henry, a French striker, he played for my favorite team, Arsenal, for years. One of the great players of the 20th century. He finished his career playing for the New York Red Bull team in the MLS, and he's a huge basketball fan. And he's a big Frenchman. He's like 6'3", 6'4", huge for a striker. He was the first soccer player I ever saw who said he went to Knicks games all the time. And when he got to New York, he loved being able to go to the Garden. And he was asked about that, comparing the athleticism, and he laughed and he said, "No, that's that. Only soccer fans say stupid things like that. Go to an NBA game. The greatest athletes in the world are unquestionably NBA basketball players for what they're asked to do over the course of a game. It doesn't even compute. And I guarantee you, there's some defensive backs in the NFL who would argue that point because you look at what those guys are able to do. You look at the leaping ability. Every year."
Some of the receivers,
training, sure. You got but hell, I mean, look at the average offensive lineman for the bodies that big, the footwork and the weight distribution, the balance. There's so much going on in a game of football that I still, because I never played football, so I'm still learning. I still like basketball and soccer are just innate to me. I get it. Football, never having played, I'm reminded constantly of just how just insane the athleticism in that game is. Because when I was a kid, I just thought, they're just all smashing into each other. I just didn't see it for what it was. Speaking of football, and speaking of the Minnesota Vikings, quarterbacks coaches Josh McCown and Grant Udinski are going over to Ann Arbor. They're going to be taking a very close look at J.J. McCarthy, the Michigan Wolverines quarterback. A lot of people, Colin Cowherd, who's I think the biggest, sports talk guy now, still standing. He's obsessed with the McCarthy coming to the Vikings. He talks about it every day. He says they got to trade up, get that 7th pick. No other teams are dying to get McCarthy, but with O'Connell and the weapons, this is just one guy's opinion, but Colin Cowherd, very big sports talk guy, he thinks this is the place for J.J. McCarthy to completely come in and shine with the coaching staff, with the weapons. Now, McCarthy is no one's idea of a can't-miss prospect. I mean, there's so few of those that come out. But what he is the most successful quarterback in Michigan history.
Yep.
By the numbers.
A winner. He's a winner.
They've been playing football there for quite a while.
Yeah.
And he's lost 2 games in 3 years as a starter. Total. This year, of course, ran the table, national championship. And there are things about, just simple old school leadership and knowing winning and having been a winner and knowing what it takes to win, winning games in the fourth quarter from behind. On the college level, those things, when a kid's doing that in college, that is the NFL to that kid. That's you can be no bigger than where you are as a college quarterback. And if you're winning on that level with come from behind wins, high pressure wins, you are learning what it takes to win. That does translate to the next level if you have the physical skills to keep you in the games.
Chuck Noll, the great Chuck Noll, way back then, and I realize not all these things translate, but he built a team through the draft. Famously, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Steel Curtain, that entire team was built through the draft, but his little key to success, he always thought, was he only drafted players from winning teams, moreover, winning programs. And because he wanted them to come in with that culture. This McCarthy kid has a lot of that. Yeah, he doesn't have the Penix numbers from last year. Michigan isn't that type of team. And I don't think Minnesota's going to want him to come in here and be that kind of football player. I will say, where I might go my separate ways with Cowherd on this, is that they need to put in some more pieces. So now, I mean, they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. You have 2 number 1 picks that can vault you up to perhaps number 4 or 5. One of those teams that aren't obviously going to take a quarterback in the top 3, but 4 and 5 have their quarterbacks already locked in. I think talking about the Chargers and Arizona, they've already got their quarterbacks. So you might be able to trade up to them with those 2 first-round picks to get McCarthy, because I don't think what's their first pick, 11? Would they be able to get him there?
Right.
But you're giving up 2 first-round picks, and you need offensive linemen.
Yeah.
You still need some more help on the defensive line. You still need some help in the second. They need a lot of pieces, and 2 first-round picks is a pretty big deal, but I like him. I'd like to see him come to Minnesota. But there again, I mean, when you look at his numbers, he's not one of those guys. He's not going to come out as a gunslinger, but a guy that can run a team really well. And let's not forget, I only watched him this season, so I saw a few Michigan games this year. And what I liked about him is coming down the stretch, did he win the games?
Yep,
did he make the plays in the fourth quarter? Did he get the 8 yards they needed for the first? They had to have that first down every time. He was able to do that. He and the team, of course.
Yeah, right. I've seen a couple people compare him to Tim Tebow, saying great leader, the teammates love him, he'll run through a brick wall to win. But I think that's as far as you can take it, because Tebow was physically limited. His throwing form, his style. Nobody that knows NFL football ever thought Tebow was truly going to make it as a quarterback. He did have all the intangibles. I'm sure he's a great teammate, but he was not ever destined to be an NFL quarterback. McCarthy has much greater quarterbacking skills already than Tebow did.
I think Tebow was dangerous as a running back.
Yeah.
I mean, as much in that almost wishbone thing they ran there in Florida and then there was a thought of him as maybe a wildcat quarterback for a while, but not a true passer. Yeah, I would think McCarthy has a bit more of a pedigree when it comes to passing, but I mean, we'll see. They've got a lot of decisions to make, but you've got to get a quarterback. The Vikings have to get a quarterback in the mix somewhere, whoever it's going to be. They need to draft a quarterback somewhere in this class to get them into the mix with Sam Darnold and
the thing we're talking about, the importance of learning how to win. You look back, like Magic Johnson led the Lakers to a championship as a rookie, right? I'm going back 44 years, but he's a perfect example. He won a high school state championship, he won a collegiate championship, and an NBA championship in 4 years. Like, he won a state championship in high school. That's as big as it can be when you're a high school kid. He won a title with Michigan State. Rookie year at the Lakers, Jabbar's out. He jumps center, scores 42 points. They win. Winning is something you, like anything else, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And in basketball, with the rise of AAU basketball the last 30 years, that's why you've seen so many really good basketball players, and they get to the playoffs in their NBA careers, they've never experienced pressure to win. That winning is not the point of AAU. Scoring and getting noticed is. And you've got these now several generations of players who, for the most part, aren't in tight situations, and then they get in the NBA, and you're like, why does this guy suck when it really matters? And it's because he doesn't have the experience. That's why you've got, look around the NBA right now, whoever your top 10 players are, 4 of them are from Europe. That's just a fact. Luka Doncic and Jokic, those guys are on your, if they're not in your top 10, if they're not in your top 5, you're not watching basketball very wisely. Giannis is from Greece, for crying out loud. Those guys grow up learning in cultures where it's about winning the game, not about getting attention. And there's a reason that they succeed at such a high level. It's basketball's got AAU has just been the Charles Barkley said years ago, it's the devil. And because he knew what he was talking about. Winning is something you learn early. Winners win. It's like the silliest comment, but it's really true. And it's not just because you're talented. It's because you understand that winning is a thing. It's a skill. There's a lot to go into it.
There's so much parity in professional sports. These guys are at the top of their game. It's amazing when you watch. I'm trying to think of the HBO show where you follow the teams. Hard Knocks.
Yeah, Hard Knocks.
When you watch Hard Knocks, look at how much in that show that they do in not the film room, but in the mentality of visualizing and getting them mentally in the right place, because there's so much parity. The team that takes the field in the NFL on that given Sunday, as Vince, as Lombardi would say, on that Sunday, is the team that has the edge, the team that expects to win. Tom Brady did it for decades because he was a winner and he cultivated. You knew when you joined the Patriots, you went to join the Patriots at the end of your career. Ask Randy Moss. He didn't get it, almost an undefeated season and a Super Bowl ring. But you went to the Patriots to win, to be part of that winning system. And they need some of that, a lot of it, I think, in this Vikings organization. So wherever you can pick up, especially in those leadership roles, people that expect to win and want winners around them and that attitude, it's a big thing to draft. You still got to have the physical, the physical ability, of course. But when you talk about McCarthy, you talk about a top-tier Division I national championship quarterback. I like him, but you're right. I wouldn't, I'm not going to bet the mortgage on him.
No, I don't think so. We talked earlier in the show about things we miss being a kid. Mine was falling asleep in the car and magically waking up in bed tomorrow. Like, there's nothing better than, it's funny because I had surgery a few years ago. I tore my bicep tendon, and I remember going into surgery, and I kind of remember waking up after surgery, but it was just like being a kid. I 1 minute I'm talking to the doctor about which arm we're going to operate on, and the next thing I know, basically I'm in bed at home and I'm like, "Hi, baby, can I have a sandwich?" And it's just like, this was great. I should have surgery more often. It feels like when I'm a kid. It feels like falling asleep on the way home from the movie and waking up in my PJs under the covers. No recollection of that whatsoever. Zepp, you mentioned, of course, the knees. Just the general aches and pains. On the 92 KQRS Facebook post, what's something you miss about being a kid? David wrote, I'll just get right to it. One word: cocaine. I'm going to assume he means the Clapton song. He loved that single when it came out. And we can play it for you if you need to hear it again.
I mean, I was just, my daughter came and just stayed with me for a week, and she's very much in that 26-year-old, I want to party kind of thing. And it's, of course, during the way I've got to work. We went out one night. I said, all right, I'm throwing down. I'm keeping up with you, kiddo. Lead the way, I shall follow. And I was wrecked for 4 days. I mean, you just can't hang like you used to. Cocaine might have been a fun, wild night back in the day, but yeah, I'm not sure I could pull it. It would get the best of me away.
Connell was home for spring break last week. Our son came up, and he was with us from Friday through Friday, which is we loved having him in town for the whole week. But Friday morning, he got up and spent St. Patty's weekend in New York City with friends. Right off he goes to New York. And, I mean, he's leaving Minneapolis, and Rosemary and I are like, we love him, but, oh, my God, got to get him out of here. We're exhausted. Like, just staying up an extra hour a night with him and having one more beer or whatever. And he's like, Thursday night, we're like, okay, this has been great, but you got to get out of here. And he's like, I'm so bored, I'm losing my mind, I got to get out of here. We're laughing at how we have complete opposite reasons for wanting him to get on to the next part of his week. We need sleep, and he needs to wake up. He was like, that was pretty much how that went. By the way, I heard from yesterday, half dozen people hit me up yesterday afternoon.
Oh, yeah, congratulations.
And they're like, what in the world? My friend JT from Chicago texted me, and he goes, holy crap, I can't believe this. And I said, what are you talking about? And he goes, I left you a voicemail. I said, I didn't hear it. And I call him. He goes, dude, this is just absolutely unbelievable. I go, what are you on about? He goes, did you sign an NDA? You can't talk about it? And I literally said, his name's John Thomas, JT. I said, John, I have no idea what you're talking about. He goes, Connell, he's on American Idol. And I go, what? No, what are you talking about? There's some kid named Connell Gorman was on American Idol Sunday night. Yeah. And, I mean, there's some Connell Gormans in Ireland. I've never come across one in America. But there's this kid, and he goes to college in Nashville at Belmont University, which is like a music college.
Yeah.
And I send a link. I see a thing. It's like Connell Gorman on American Idol. I send it to my son Connell, and he goes, oh, this kid can rip. I saw him play at a bar last year. I'm like, wait, you didn't think to mention it? You saw it? I mean, It's just I've never met anybody with the name Connell Gorman except my son. And then not only is there another one, but my son saw him playing in a bar last year. And he goes, yeah, he's a really good guitar player. And I was like, well, now your destiny's calling. Pick those drumsticks up again and go start a band with this kid.
And they can only be Connell Gormans in the band. Just go grab a couple more. There's a bass player you need.
There's an Irish kid. I guarantee you there's a bass in the hands of an Irish kid named Connell Gorman somewhere in the world. Just go be a three-piece. Go rock it, man. The Connell Gormans. I don't know.
Yeah, he
Sounds
kind of
like
looks like him,
me.
too. I had to do a double take because I just met your kid, and I was like, wait, that's not who I met. But
no, it's not who you met.
And then there was the word Nashville was in there. I've not met Connell, but I thought, hey, look, he's tall, lanky. He's got some dark, curly-looking hair. And then I saw the word Nashville. I'm like, wait a minute. Steve is an open book. He would have mentioned if his kid was, so.
No, I would have, because there would have been papers drawn up to disown him if he'd gone on American Idol. No kid of mine's going to go on that garbage. All right, let's look back.
Teach us a thing or two.
I'll see if I can. On this day, 29 years ago, March 19th, 1995, Michael Jordan took the court for the Chicago Bulls for the first time in a couple years. The day before, a 2-word message, I'm back. And then the moment of truth. Against the Indiana Pacers, he went out and stunk up the joint. Hadn't played basketball in 18 months. They lost the game in overtime. Didn't really matter, though, because to this day, Michael Jordan's first game back remains the highest rated, most watched regular season game in league history. 35 million viewers tuned in to see the Indiana Pacers beat the Bulls in overtime.
Get the KQ Morning Show podcast wherever you listen. 92 KQRS.